of the votes, little over 11,000 margin, 49.4 to 49.1.
This ain't over. This ain't over by a long shot.
It was rigged, and I demand a recount.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
This week, 82 years ago, Kristallnacht happened. It was the Nazis' warning shot across the bow of our human civilization. After 4 years of a modern-day assault on those same values by Donald Trump, the Biden-Harris team pledges a return to norms, including the truth.
Well, what a terrible thing to say. How could you think that?
This is CNN. Who's your captain? Howie Carr.
Oh, you're not going to turn off the TV?
We get to take our democracy back.
What do you say to those who are criticizing you, where less than a week ago, you went out and stood before a massive crowd who was celebrating Joe Biden's victory, and now you're saying your city has to shut down? How do you have one and not the other?
There are times when we actually do need to have relief and come together, and I felt like that was one of those times. That crowd was gathered whether I was there or not.
Objection! These remarks are profane and irrelevant.
Unchained and unstoppable.
President Trump believes he will be President Trump, have a second term.
It would look pretty bad if he did not attend the inauguration. It would look like sour grapes, wouldn't it?
I think the president will attend his own inauguration. He would have to be there, in fact.
Rump swabs, hacks, and moonbats beware. It's Howie Carr.
Welcome to the show. Keep the faith, baby. It's not over yet. The recounts are continuing. The mainstream media is trying to rush to judgment, as always, with the help of big tech. And it's going to be decided in the courts, it looks like. And that there is massive evidence of all kinds of election laws have been violated. Violation of the Equal Protection Clause to the United States Constitution. That's something everyone should take seriously, right? You know, if you're in one county in Pennsylvania and you don't fill out the ballot properly and you want to vote for Donald Trump, you don't get a call saying you need to cure your ballot. But if you're a Joe Biden voter in, say, Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, you get a call if you didn't fill out the ballot properly, and they tell you how to cure your ballot. It's not permissible under the state law, under any state laws, I don't think. 844-500-4242. It is, of course, Friday afternoon, and but we've got a normal show planned as always. And again, I don't want anybody to lose confidence. This thing is not over. And as Donald Trump said, he called up Byron York just out of the blue on Thursday from the Washington Examiner, and he said, never bet against me, never bet against me, and that's a good betting rule. And you know that you may have noticed or heard that Las Vegas, they have not settled the bets. They are not confident that which way this election is going to go. 844-500-4242. I'll tell you what, I'm going to make you a promise, though, today. I am not going to read any excerpts from Barack Obama's latest ghost-written memoirs or autobiographies or whatever the hell he's calling it. I saw enough just when he said that Trump was using birtherism and invented birtherism. I thought to myself, how much more do I need to know? And how much more does the media need to know that it's BS? Doesn't the media understand that birtherism, this is the only thing I'm going to say about it. Birtherism, meaning the argument that Barack Obama was not born in the United States of America and therefore had no right to become the president of the United States. Where did that rumor, that story, that conspiracy begin? It began when he was trying to sell his first ghost-written memoirs. He was using Bill Ayers as his ghostwriter back then, because he's not a facile writer, shall we say. He's not a gifted stylist. I think we know that. He doesn't know how to even spell Syracuse. He thinks they're 57 states. He thinks they speak Arabic in Afghanistan. He thinks they speak Austrian in Austria. He's not a well-educated person. Let's be honest. So he's trying to sell the book. Basically I'm a member of a protected class, and you have to buy the book. And so he decides to make it even better by saying he was born in Kenya. He puts that in the sell sheet, or his agent, his book agent, put it in the sell sheet. I think he, at the very least, should have proofread the sell sheet before it went out to publishers, but it said he was born in Kenya. So when Hillary Clinton was running against him in 2007, she was doing the usual Oppo research. I don't know if this was Fusion GPS or Christopher Steele or who was handling the Oppo research, but they came up with this sell sheet that said he was born in Kenya. So they started spreading it around. How the hell does that make Donald Trump? So Donald Trump got it at least third hand. Sidney Blumenthal, Sid Vicious, as they called him, later picked up for drunk driving in New Hampshire. Sid Vicious was peddling this to every national reporter who was covering the 2008 Democrat primaries. And again, I don't blame Sid Vicious or Hillary Clinton in this case. They have the smoking gun, his own sell sheet. It's like a rate card for if you're a salesman, or or it's a brochure if you're selling washing machines or lawnmowers. This is how he was selling himself. He was selling himself as an exotic creature who was born in Kenya, and now it becomes Donald Trump's fault, and all these mainstream media are just lapping it up with a spoon like it's the truth. You can't tell me they don't know the truth here. I mean, a lot of them don't, probably, but not all of them. Are they all that stupid? They just go with a lie that they know is a lie? Good Lord. That's all I'm going to say, though. That's all I'm going to say. 844-500-4242. Yeah, just when you hear that this weekend about how Trump started the birther rumor, just remember it started with Hillary. It's like the Willie Horton thing in 1988. Willie Horton, the guy who was let go on a weekend furlough, and he ended up going to Maryland and raping a woman and stabbing her husband. It was a Mike Dukakis weekend furlough. And George H.W. Bush won the presidential election with the racist meme of Willie Horton, black convict, raping the poor white couple from Maryland. Do you know who invented Willie Horton, who brought him out of obscurity? That would be Mr. Al Gore. Al Gore, who is now on NBC News demanding that Donald Trump be conciliatory and concede the presidential election. Al Gore came up with Willie Horton in the New York primary in the spring of 1988. George H.W. Bush in his campaign just took the handoff. Good Lord. I mean, this is just the revisionism going on. They always say, well, when the history books are written, we'll know what really happened. I mean, the way things are going, that's not the way it's going to be. When the history books are written, they're going to make it out that Donald Trump invented birtherism, and that George H.W. Bush invented the Willie Horton narrative, which, by the way, was perfectly true. I mean, if you can't use factual material like Willie Horton going out on a weekend furlough that Mike Dukakis granted him and then raping and knifing people, or you can't say that Barack Obama was claiming to be born in Kenya, what the hell? What are you supposed to use if you can't tell the truth? 844-500-4242. That is the toll-free number of the Howie Carr Show. We're going to take a lot of calls here today, and we're going to talk more about it when we go to the break, but or when we go in the final hour of the show tonight. But a good friend of mine and the Howie Carr Show died last night at his home in Millbury. Howie Winter. He was the legendary boss of the Winter Hill Gang. And he was 91 years old, and he was a really good guy. I know he was a criminal and he did a lot of time, et cetera, but he was a good person, and he loved Grace too. He really loved Grace, and he would always tip his Tam O'Shanter to Grace when he was in the studio here visiting with us. And he was 91 years old, and he was a veteran of World War II, the U.S. Marine Corps. He joined at the age of 14. 14. That's what guys did then. Joe Moakley, the congressman from South Boston, he's dead now as well. He joined the Merchant Marine at 15. But that was the way they rolled back in those days. And then Howie Winter would always say that he was in World War II, and then he was in the Irish gang war against the Charlestown crew back in the 1960s. But Howie Winter, deepest condolences to his family and especially his wife Ellen, and rest in peace. And we'll talk more about him in the 6 o'clock hour. 844-500-4242. Are you tired of spending your hard-earned cash on high heating bills every year? Well, now you can stop. Thanks to my friends at Eden Pure, you can get a new hybrid portable heater called the Gen 40. I got my hand on it right now if you're on social media. The Eden Pure Gen 40 is guaranteed to save you money on your heating bills. It's safe around children and pets. It won't start a fire like those other unsafe space heaters. This new hybrid heating technology from Eden Pure is causing a frenzy this season. The Gen 40 has 2 different technologies that heat a home better than your furnace, boiler, or baseboard heating systems. It pays for itself in just a few months. And as a Howie listener, you get the best deals. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code HowieDeal to get $25 off the sale price. That's EdenPure.com and use code word HowieDeal for an extra $25 off. These heaters are in high demand, so go right now to EdenPure.com and use code word HowieDeal to start saving money on your heating bills. I'm Howie Carr.
Don't touch that dial. Howie Carr will be back after this.
And
Thanks.
now, an interview with the Emperor.
You want me to do this? Do the
Howie Carr.
Do the morning minute?
Is Kennedy Babylon 2 your last book?
Yeah, we can do that. Hold on.
www.superbeatsradio.com/Howie, www.superbeatsradio.com/Howie. And now, a minute of wisdom from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Millennials and people and Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And this is the war. This is our World War II.
I think that there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right.
But being factually correct is important.
It's absolutely important.
And if we work our butts off to make sure that we take back all 3 chambers of Congress, all 3 chambers of government, the presidency, the Senate, and the House in 2020, we can't start working.
That's the next
in
one?
2020.
Oh, that's this one. Okay. I see.
This is Jay in Hingham, Massachusetts.
This is Gloria from Haverhill, Mass.
Hi, this is Joe from Howie in the Hills, Florida, and this is the Howie Carr Show.
844-500-4242. Today's poll question is brought to you by the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier. I'm holding it in my hand right now. Eden Pure is continuing their buy one, get one sale. Eliminate pet, tobacco, and basement smells for good. My listeners love the Thunderstorm. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word Howie BOGO. Now, you may know that there was a moratorium on evictions from residential housing that was issued by the state during the height of the panic back in the spring. And that moratorium expired last month, October 17th. So the city of Somerville, next door to Boston, has issued a new directive. Because the Somerville eviction enforcement moratorium remains in effect, this is from the city solicitor, Francis X. Wright Jr., landlords are prohibiting from enforcing evictions upon residents. So property rights have been abrogated in the all-American city, the city of Seven Hills, Howie Winter's old hometown. You can't evict somebody for non-payment of rent in Somerville. So I want to know, do landlords get a moratorium from having to pay the property taxes as long as they have deadbeat tenants and they can't get rid of them? If they don't have any money coming in, why don't they get a break? I'll bet the landlords are getting less money coming in than most of the tenants. The tenants might be getting the extra dough that came through the COVID relief programs that have been in place. They could get unemployment. They could get welfare. So, Taylor, what's the poll question and what are the results thus far?
Should landlords still be allowed to evict non-paying tenants?
Yes. Yes, I don't know why there was a moratorium to begin with.
89% say yes, they should be able to do so.
Isn't this a great thing that they allow? I'd like to see a landlord in Somerville go into court and just say, hey, I want a moratorium too. You know, I want equal protection under the law. If my deadbeat tenant up on the second floor doesn't have to pay his rent, why the hell do I have to pay property taxes to Mayor Curtatone and his band of hacks? 844-500-4242, 603. Where would Howie Winter fix horse races? All over the place. He fixed horse races all over the place. Most of the places he fixed horse races are out of business now, though. I think there are places like Narragansett in Rhode Island. That's the one that comes to mind right off the bat. But they're almost all gone. But they fixed that. They fixed tons of horse races. And finally, the guy Fat Tony Shula, ratted them out. And we can get into all this in the 6 o'clock hour. There's a lot of good stuff with Howie Winter. He was and as I say, he was a good guy on top of everything else. 844-500-4242. Let's play the New York Post has a story today. Desert storm. That's the lead. That's their headline today on the front page. Desert storm, and some Democrats are blaming the House losses on Nancy Pelosi and her Marie Antoinette let them eat cake attitude with the designer gelato and the Sub-Zero freezers. Remember that from the spring? But it wasn't just her that had this attitude. You know, it was the Cuomo brothers walking around without masks on and getting into beefs out in the yard with the fat tire biker who was like close to 70 years old. And now it's still going on. Lori Lightfoot, she's the horrible mayor of Chicago. And she was out on Saturday after the media declared Joe Biden the president-elect. And this was her on last Saturday. Okay, one.
This is a great day for our country. We get to take our democracy back. Yeah! And I just want to say, for all those people who voted. You made this happen.
She's not wearing a mask. That's the important thing. So she gets asked about it today. Let's play cut 2.
One of the reasons people feel frustrated or skeptical is they're getting a lot of mixed messages. What do you say to those who are criticizing you where less than a week ago you went out and stood before a massive crowd who was celebrating Joe Biden's victory, and now you're saying your city has to shut down? How do you have one and not the other?
Well, look, I think that we've been saying all along, everybody has to take care. Everybody has to take precaution. I will tell you, in that big crowd a week ago, everybody was wearing masks. Look,
right.
You can see the shot here.
Right.
Mask compliance in our city is actually up very, very high. But yes, there are times when we actually do need to have a relief and come together. And I felt like,
well, how about
That was one
Thanksgiving?
of those times. That crowd was gathered.
Does Thanksgiving count as a time of relief and
this
to
has
come
been
together? God, I can't take it. And incidentally, Pritzker, the governor, Jabba the Hutt, Pritzker, J.B. Pritzker, his daughter was photographed at a nice dinner party in one of the swell restaurants in the one of the ritzier areas of Chicago. And guess how many people were at her table? 14. I believe that's over the limit a little bit, but hey, she's a Pritzker. Remember when he said nobody could leave, everybody was locked down, and so his family got on their private jet because they own the Hyatt hotels. That's where their money comes from. He inherited it, and they flew to Wellington, Florida, down here in Palm Beach County, where they have a nice horse farm. So again, so everybody else in Chicago and Illinois was locked down, and his family is flying out on a private jet, and Lori Lightfoot doesn't have to worry about getting her hair cut. She brings in somebody. Brad, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Brad.
Howie, I read in the Geller report that the Rhino, Georgia governor is conducting just a phony audit, or a cosmetic audit.
Yeah.
I'm reading from the Geller report, and they say the Georgian State Senate GOP leaders are very clear about the process they want to unfold in Georgia.
Yeah.
And
No, I know. Brad, we don't. I'm sorry we took you so late, but yeah, you're right. We're going to be talking with Chris Bedford from the Federalist about Georgia very shortly. I'm Howie Carr. Maria's finest Italian restaurant in Portland, Maine is worth the trip for their amazing meatballs alone. I'm talking about the best meatballs I've ever had. Outstanding. Maria's is owned and chef-operated with many specialties, including homemade pasta and sauce. Known for their eggplant parmesan and seasonal favorites like their pumpkin ricotta gnocchi, you won't leave hungry. Portland's Maria's is rated number 20 in the country among the best Italian-American restaurants. Check out their extensive menu at mariasrestaurant.com. Visit today and be part of the family. Do you have no water, poor water quality, or low pressure? This is Howie Carr. Call the water experts serving Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Skillings & Sons. They're ready with 24-hour service and a fleet of trucks stocked with parts to make sure you're not without water. With over 50 years of experience, they take pride in having a family of employees that are the best in the business. For all things water, Skillings & Sons is there for you. skillingsandsons.com.
Joe Biden accuses Trump of being a racist, but if you listen to Biden's comments, you would agree that he doth protest too much.
If you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
The first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean.
And Madam President, we have predators on our streets.
That kid wearing a hoodie may very well be the next poet laureate and not a gangbanger.
They are beyond the pale, many of those people.
God love you. You've been here all day. My Lord, you may feel like you're being incarcerated.
We have no choice but to take them out of society.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
I think the two-party system is good for the South and good for the Negro.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
Unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Now's the perfect time to get a pair of premium wireless earbuds, and Raycon is the way to go. Raycon start at about half the price of other premium brands on the market, and they sound just as amazing. And Raycon's everyday E25 earbuds are their best model yet. You get 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a more compact design that gives you a comfortable, noise-isolating fit. Perfect for conference calls, video chats, or binging podcasts. Raycon was founded by Ray J, and celebrities like Cardi B and J.R. Smith have already given Raycons their seal of approval. I love my Raycons, and Grace loves hers, too.
Howie, I love my Raycons. Best birthday gift ever.
I listen to much better music than she does, though.
Hey, that's not true.
Now it's your turn to see what the hype is all about. Go to buyraycon.com/Howie. That's buyraycon.com/Howie. buyraycon.com/Howie.
Joe Biden might be running for president in 2020, so we should play some of his greatest hits.
Barack and I finally reduced the disparity in sentencing, which we've been fighting to eliminate, in crack cocaine versus powder cocaine. Correct. It was a big mistake when it was made. We were told by the experts that crack, you never go back.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
If you want to protect yourself, get a double-barrel shotgun. If there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony, put that double-barrel shotgun, and fire 2 blasts. They're going to put you all back in chains. Give me a break. That's a bunch of malarkey.
The 3-letter word, jobs. J-O-B-S, jobs.
One man stands ready to deliver change we desperately need. A man I'm proud to call my friend. A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
Are you aware that the Episcopal Archbishop of Washington and the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church nationally all denounced this police assault on the civil rights and civil liberties of the people?
Did they do that before or after the fire was put out?
Do you want to rephrase what you're doing? Because I think the word spying could cause everybody in the cable news ecosystem to freak out.
I'm not sure of all the connotations of that word that you're referring to, but unauthorized surveillance.
Okay, thank you.
Is that more appropriate in your mind?
This is your call. I really did want to give you a chance to say it how you wanted to say it and make sure that you didn't misspeak.
How can you sit here and tell us, why should I investigate the president of the United States, if you're not even aware of the facts concerning the president using the pardon or commutation power to swap the silence of a witness?
Because we require, a reliable predicate before we open a criminal investigation.
Do you think that this body right here would rise up if they decided to go tonight and paint the Capitol building?
This body, I'm not sure.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
Once again, the networks are jumping the gun on declaring Georgia for Biden because that's their fondest wish, and the Georgia recounts seem to be somewhat less than what you would expect. The Georgia GOP chairman is saying they're still not being allowed into the areas where they're doing the recounts or the re-audits, whatever you want to call it. But there is there's something else that's going on in Georgia. However, this recount or re-audit, whatever it is, turns out, and that's the 2 Senate races. And in Georgia, you have to get a majority of the votes. Looked like Perdue had a majority of the votes. The incumbent who's been elected in the past. But with this torrent of last-minute suspicious ballots, he's slightly under 50%. So he's in a runoff against this pajama boy named John Ossoff. And then there's the second runoff for the Senate seat that was vacated by the guy whose name's just slipping my mind, but who got sick and he resigned, and he was unable to perform the duties of a senator. So he was replaced by Kelly Loeffler, and Doug Collins ran for it, and the congressman, and so Loeffler prevailed over Collins in this jungle primary, they call it, and she's running against this guy, this black minister who's kind of a radical. He's been a big defender of Jeremiah Wright. And so anyway, we want to check in on this. It's going to be the focus of a lot of attention until the runoffs on January 5th, and this is going to decide who controls the Senate. And if the Dems control the Senate, they can pack the Supreme Court. They can add D.C. and Puerto Rico as the 51st and 52nd states and make sure Republicans never have any kind of power again. They can start abolishing the Electoral College, et cetera. It's a very important election. Joining us now is Chris Bedford from the Federalist. We've had him on before. He's written a lot of good stories. He's got a look at what's going on in Georgia. He's got Georgia on his mind. Chris, thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show.
Thanks for having me.
So I would have to say that it looks to me like it's going to be pretty hard for this guy Warnock, this black minister, to win. I mean, given what's come out about him. I mean, he's got everything going against him in terms of he's got the anti-Semitic remarks. He's endorsing the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, Goddamn America. He was arrested for interfering in a child abuse investigation against his church. I mean, this guy is kind of dusted up, isn't he?
Yeah, when you first take a look at him, he kind of looks like the dream Democratic candidate. He's someone who crafted himself after Martin Luther King. He went to the same university that King went to, and now he actually heads the same church that Martin Luther King was at in Georgia. But when you dig in just a little bit deeper and the amount of stuff that's begun to come out on him, I mean, when he was at a church in New York City back in the 90s as a junior minister, they chanted Fidel's name, where they hosted Fidel Castro. Now you can be a communist, I suppose, but being a communist in a Christian church, this is somebody who literally banned Christmas as well as closing down churches in Cuba. They're chanting his name. He says Reverend Wright's a wonderful man and part of the great tradition of black Christianity. This is the guy who says, "Gee darn America." I mean, he holds nothing back. Even Barack Obama, who was pretty left-wing for Georgia, was strongly against Wright.
Right.
And, he's against the police. He's called them thugs. It's wild.
Yeah. I don't see that he's got much of a chance, but you can't. I mean, after what's happened with these massive dumps of votes and the fact that these guys are going to have access to all of this money from out of state. I'm just looking here. Warnock raised 80%. This is the black guy, the minister. He raised 80% of his money out of state, and this guy Ossoff raised 87% of his money out of state. That's the bad news. The good news is that this money doesn't seem to have that much effect on these races. Just ask Michael Bloomberg, right?
And that's one thing we've kind of learned from Citizens United and we learned this from the Kochs, and we've learned this from Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, is that money doesn't really, at the end of the day, make quite as much difference as it was expected to. It's important, but it doesn't make all the difference. And this has been a thing that's been going on. Georgia's been a focus of New York City and Hollywood for years now. We saw that before with Stacey Abrams. In the past, also when he ran for the House of Representatives, ran the most expensive race in history and still lost. He's back again running another massively expensive race. I mean, Stacey Abrams, that's another candidate the media said won the election and probably still maintain that across the board, even though she didn't. So there's all this money pouring in. Everyone's focusing on Georgia. At the end of the day, I do think it's going to be an uphill battle for either Democrat to prevail, especially when Donald Trump and the animus that some voters had against him is no longer on the ballot.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're back to this guy Warnock. His senior advisor thinks defunding the police, quote, will actually make us safer. I don't get it, and I don't get where this guy Ossoff comes off. I mean, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would ever have a shot in Georgia, does he?
He looks a lot more like some of the Democratic candidates that we've seen pop up, whether it's in Texas. He's like made in that thin-chested mold of Trudeau over up there in Canada, where a lot of the Hollywood liberals love him and they think he looks great, but he's not exactly a Georgia boy. In fact, in the last election when he ran in the House, he couldn't even vote in that election because he wasn't a legal resident in the district he ran in. I mean, that was still a tight race because getting a young and handsome face to come out is excitable, but he's the kind of guy. He's caught on tape saying he wants to bury the GOP, the Trump supporters, and make it so that they can never show their face in public again. And that's not exactly in line with the reconciliation and unity messages that we've been hearing across the board from a lot of these folks.
So they have that on videotape of him saying this. They will never show their face in public again.
That's how badly he wants to beat them, that they will never show their face in public again. It's not a unity message for Americans.
Yeah, again, it's ironic because it seems like the case in North Carolina, you had another guy who's like one of these candidates. They thought that they had this wonderful guy, Cal Cunningham. He went to UNC, as did I, and he is a good family man. Had been in the state legislature. He was a lawyer, et cetera. And so Chuck Schumer said he's going to be our guy, not the black woman. But then it turns out that the black woman, at least I don't think she had any skeletons in her closet, but Cal Cunningham did, and they blew a totally winnable election. They sometimes it's just best to let local politics play out, don't you think, Chris? And just let the best candidate or the better candidate come to the surface and just go with that person.
It's certainly amazing to watch how local politics still is, even in the age when everything seems political, even down to coronavirus is political these days. But if you look at these candidates on paper, whether they're in Arizona or North Carolina, you say, wow, that's a really impressive candidate. And then someone might tell you, have you heard them speak? Have you heard the way they talk to voters? Have you seen the way they interact with people? Or do you know what they do in their private life? And then suddenly that whole narrative really falls apart, becomes very local.
Someone just asked me on my text line, could the Georgia recount put one or both senators over 50%? It can't put Loeffler over 50% because she didn't. Actually, I think Warnock did better than her, right, in terms of raw votes. But I think it could put Perdue was over 50% until Wednesday or Thursday, wasn't he?
He was, and that's why I was looking into this just yesterday, last night, to try and figure out, well, could this impact the Senate race? But at least right now, as the recount has been decided, it's only for the presidential election. It's not going to recount the entire ballot. So I was looking into that myself and was kind of surprised, but I guess they're just trying to really tie it down to one specific aspect of the recount, and that was the race that triggered it.
Well, I would think, though, I don't know how Georgia election law works, but you would think Perdue would have the right to demand a recount, too. I mean, just like in Michigan, John James, who I think definitely seems to have gotten jobbed along with Trump. I mean, he's demanding a recount, isn't he? After he lost to that weak Gary Peters, right?
Yeah, I mean, in Michigan, he's demanding a recount. I just haven't heard of a recount being demanded yet from Perdue, at least as of this morning.
Yeah, I'm glad you. I saw you wrote an earlier column that I have in my hand. I read it when I liked it last weekend. Saturday's media declaration is a naked attempt to silence Republicans, and nothing has changed. I was glad to see somebody write that. It was just an attempt to get the Trump 73 million people depressed, and they would never have done this if Trump were ahead of Biden by these narrow margins this early on in the process. They wouldn't have done that, would they?
No, I mean, if you look at Alaska, where Trump was clearly winning, and you look at any other states that he was clearly winning, there was such an incredible hesitancy on the part of the media to call that because it didn't fit into their predictions and their models, and it didn't fit into their politics. But then you see places like Georgia and other states where they've been holding out for as long as they possibly could. North Carolina saying, well, we don't know. And that's to sow seeds of doubt around the entire country. And now the most annoying part of this whole thing, and the most insidious part, is that they'll use this declaration from Fox and NBC and Washington Post to ally with the groups in the big tech, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, and shut down the president's attempts for a recount and anyone else who wants to even bring up the fact that there is demonstrable fraud. I mean, count every vote, yes, but don't count every illegal vote.
Right. Exactly. And as you said, Donald Trump's entire presidency is an affront to the media. His victory was an assertion that they are not in charge. We are. That's why they hate him. It's so true. That's why they have to destroy him. And that's what this power grab is all about. I'm glad you brought up Alaska, too, because I heard, well, we can't call the Senate race. It's just too close to call. And this is in Alaska. And I'm thinking, I always think of Alaska as being pretty solidly, reliably Republican. And then finally, I think they called it Wednesday. They called it 2 days ago. Dan Sullivan, the incumbent Republican, had 57% of the vote to 39% for the independent that was running against him. They had to wait 8 days to call that? Come on. Who's kidding who?
The media definitely took their time. They didn't want to work it into their projections. Alaska's got some difficulties where they've got military abroad, and it's a more difficult state to get around than
right,
any other
obviously.
place in the United States and to get votes in. But they sure didn't let their models make the decision for them, like we saw in South Carolina earlier in the election.
And as long as I'm getting this off my chest, Chris, another thing that bugged me was Governor Roy Cooper in North Carolina. When they said, why did the counting end on Tuesday night? He said there were no more ballots to count. And then they said, when are we going to get a final count? And he said, November 12th. Wait a second. If you ran out of ballots to count on November the 3rd, why do we have to wait until November 12th? And everything turned out okay in North Carolina, but it wasn't for lack of trying, as far as I can see.
I've got a column coming out either Sunday or Monday that's kind of going through some of the ways that the GOP and other folks can really take action right now to try and make sure that this never happens again, that our elections at least can't be doubted. And whether or not who wins the presidential election, make sure that our ballots can actually be trusted. And one of the things that you have to have happen is people watching closely from both sides, Republican and Democrat. And you don't stop until those ballots are counted. You don't just leave the room and turn the lights out where no one can see them until everything's done counting. Call it a long night, an all-nighter, or a long two-nighters. Everyone did that in school. It's time to do that for the elections. They're more important than homework.
Yeah, and if you're going to say you had to stop counting because there was a break in a pipe in one of the precincts, you better put in a repair request to get that pipe fixed. They neglected to do that in Atlanta, as you know, Chris. I mean,
it's text messages are like, this is exaggerated. They knew it.
It's just, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be. It makes me angry. But and some people say I shouldn't even be laughing about this. But what am I going to do? Am I going to cut my wrists or cry? I mean, I just got to. Sometimes you just got to. You got to read these stories about the burst water pipe that didn't burst in Fulton County, Georgia. It's really something. Chris Bedford, have a good weekend. Okay, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Never in the history of real estate have government-issued moratoriums against property owners been so widespread, including the latest from Charlie Parker's administration. You just heard me talking about Somerville. Charlie Parker wanted to allow landlords to start evicting deadbeat tenants, but the city of Somerville has stopped it, at least in that one small city north of Boston. Don't wait for the value of your property to sink lower. For over 40 years, J.J. Manning has been the leading auction house in New England. From rural farms, country clubs, estates, and historic office buildings throughout New England, J.J. Manning can get your property sold fast and with no contingencies. There is a big reason why banker and tradesmen have voted J.J. Manning number one for 7 consecutive years in a row. They have the buyers and they pay cash. When you sell with a real estate broker, you have to pay commission, but with an auction, the buyer pays. This is a really treacherous time to be a property owner anywhere. Commercial real estate is on the wane. Residential real estate in some areas is great. You think residential real estate is going up in Somerville today? I don't think so. You got to know what you're doing. The way to do that is to contact Charlie Gill. That's how to get your property sold fast. Call Charlie Gill at jjmanning.com. With over 16,000 sales and satisfied customers, you could be the next one. Call them today at 800-521-0111 or go to jjmanning.com and get your property sold. Don't take any chances. It's the biggest investment of your life. J.J. Manning. I'm Howie Carr.
Keep it here. The captain will be back after this.
This hour of the Howie Carr Show is brought to you in part by Boone's Fish House and Oyster Room on the Portland waterfront. For amazing wood-grilled meats and seafood, visit the home of the baked stuffed lobster, Boone's, Portland.
President Trump's life has changed a lot in the last couple of years, but one thing that remains consistent, his love for a good nickname.
What happened to Mini Mike? Where's he? Mini Mike, I've had him up to here. Sleepy Joe has no idea what he's even talking. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. Sleepy Joe, get off the stage, please. I don't think the guy's got a chance. Sleepy Joe, I don't think he's got it. I don't know. I think Sleepy Joe may be able to limp across the finish line. Crying Chuck. I don't want to say Crazy Nancy because if I say that, you're going to say it's a copy of Crazy Bernie, and that's no good. Who that judge? Alfred Newman. You know, I thought Pocahontas was gone, left in embers. I should have saved the Pocahontas thing for another year. Did you ever hear Pocahontas? It's Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, little pencil neck Adam Schiff. Got the smallest, thinnest neck I've ever seen. But Nancy Pelosi, I call her Nervous Nancy. Crooked Hillary Clinton. Bill Clinton said to Crooked Hillary, do you think he calls her Crooked Hillary?
Here's how it works with my retirement accounts, and I'll bet yours too. If your 401k, your SEP, your IRA, whatever is going up, you probably don't think very much about it, right? But if it's going down, well, there's nothing much else you can think of. So for the last couple of years, none of us have been worrying much about those quarterly statements. But lately, it's gotten a little worrisome. It's not that bad, not yet anyway, but what goes up must come down. Now is the time to start thinking about adjusting your investments. Gold and silver have always been a hedge against stock market volatility. Uncertainty about the future has traditionally meant rising prices for precious metals. Orion Metal Exchange is the only precious metals company I trust. Give Orion a call to get a free, no-obligation investment guide about protecting your future with an enduring investment in gold and silver. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, including peace of mind, by calling Orion Metal Exchange now. Call them today at 800-912-2300. And with Orion, you'll get more metal for your money. Call 800-912-2300. That's 800-912-2300.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
Did you have any pets when you were younger?
I had a cat named Dexter. That was my first pet. And then I had possession of two poodles when I lived in Palm Beach, Princess and Frisky. They weren't really my dogs, but I took care of them. They lived with me. So they were my dogs. I love those poodles.
When you were a kid, what was the best gift you ever received?
I got this wooden fort from FAO Schwartz in Palm Beach, about the age of 6 or 7, 10 soldiers to go along with it. Such a cool fort. I had that fort for like maybe close to 10 years.
What is your all-time favorite movie?
Probably Goodfellas. I love Goodfellas. I love it even more than The Godfather.
What is your favorite dessert?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably chocolate ice cream, followed by vanilla ice cream, followed by coffee ice cream.
Hi, my name's Jane Lucas, and I am from the town of South China, Maine.
This is Al from Merrimack, New Hampshire.
Hi, I'm Angela from Brewster on the Cape, and this is the one and the only Howie Carr Show.
Scott Hounsel, we had on the other day talking about one of the other states. I think it was Michigan or Pennsylvania. He's doing one every day. Today's one is, excuse me while I call BS in Georgia. This is all just such jive. Trump increased his performance in every county in Georgia except 2. And Georgia, by the way, if you didn't know this is a historical or government trivia question. Georgia has more counties than any other state in the union, 159 counties. So Trump was up in 157 of 159 counties. Biden underperformed Obama in more than 40% of the counties in the state. And yet all he needed to do was take those 4 counties, and the mainstream media is declaring him the winner. Doug Collins, who ran for the Senate and lost, unfortunately, to Kelly Loeffler. That's why he's not in the runoff. He's leading the recount effort, and he says that this Republican governor and this Republican Secretary of State are just unbelievably feeble. This may be one of the cases where the legislature is going to have to just step in. I think they have a Republican-controlled House and Senate in Georgia, and there's more stuff going on. We'll take some calls here. Brendan, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Brendan.
Hi, Mr. Carr. I was calling about a college that I would like to look into.
Oh, we lost him. Steve, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Howie. Hey, I got a quick question about the 12th Amendment. Have you heard anything about that recently, where they say if the president doesn't concede the election because there's some weird stuff going on, that they can eventually push it to a vote in the House of Representatives?
Well, I think if the thing is, if they don't get 270 votes in the Electoral College, you have to get a majority of votes of the 538. Then it goes to the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives votes by state delegations. So California with 55 House members gets one vote. Wyoming with one House member gets one vote. So if it goes to the House of Representatives, Donald J. Trump will be a reelected president of the United States. Keep your fingers crossed. I'm Howie Carr.
I recently had a dental emergency, and where did I go? Perfect Smiles. I've said this before, but this reminded me again of what a perfectionist Dr. Houghton is. He is a veneer engineer, a world-class dental artist. Being on TV, it's important that I look my best. Dr. Houghton did that for me, and he can do it for you too. Right now, when a lot of people don't want to go into the city, Perfect Smiles is conveniently located in Nashua, New Hampshire, and parking is free. I was impressed to see all the state-of-the-art safety protocols that Perfect Smiles has taken since the virus. You'll feel safe and confident when you visit Perfect Smiles. Call 1-844-A-PERFECT-SMILE, 1-844-A-PERFECT-SMILE, or go to HowieCarrShow.com and click on the Perfect Smiles banner. You can also see my video at PerfectSmiles.com. Perfect Smiles. Change your smile. Change your life.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
So now you've broken your elbow. Have you ever broken any other bones?
When I was 8 years old, I broke my leg. I was playing touch football in Portland, and a big kid, a 15-year-old, tackled me. When I was in my 30s, I was going down the stairs, and one of the kids' toys was on the stairs, and I tripped on it and broke my foot. I lost a tooth playing touch football when I was just out of Deerfield. I got smacked in the jaw. My tooth went up, and I still have a bridge, a crown from that mishap. I have a replacement hip, and now I have a bunch of pins in my left elbow.
When do you plan to retire?
I don't plan on retiring. As an old football coach once said, once you retire, there's only one big moment left. You know what that is.
The Democrat Party is so full of loonies, social justice warriors, progressives, whatever you want to call them, that sometimes certain moonbats get overlooked. So let's take this moment to shine the woke spotlight on Crazy Mazie Hirono.
I am not going to be a fool to Mitch McConnell's shenanigans. Why should any of us? And it's not just a dog whistle, it's a bullhorn. Bullhorns. It's racism. It's basically, for many people, it's anti-Semitic. It's white supremacy.
Why not take a stand and vote yes for it? Seems like you're trying to have it both ways, not be hung by it politically, but also not say that you don't support it.
I disagree with you, Katie, that why should we engage in the kind of sham shenanigans that Mitch McConnell is really good at? I'm confused. This was just a sham.
Guess who's perpetuating all of these kinds of actions? It's the men in this country. And I just want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up.
I think the noose is closing, and, Giuliani is like a loose cannon, and so is the president, frankly.
You're listening to the Howie Carr Show.
Hair loss is not one of life's more enjoyable experiences. If you're looking to fill in your hairline or reverse years of hair loss, DiStefano Hair Restoration will create a result that will be a transformative experience. The result of my IGT procedure was quite remarkable. I now have fuller, thicker hair, so I can even wear it a bit longer. There are a few major decisions I've made in my life that I wish I did sooner. My hair restoration is number one. It was by far one of the best moves I've ever made. My hair looks awesome, and the confidence from having a full head of hair again has left me feeling great. I used to look in the mirror and dreaded seeing my ever-increasing bald spot. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see the new me with a full head of thick hair. For information on how to make the same choice I did, go to hairman.com/Howie. What are you waiting for? More hair to fall out? Get the hair you've always wanted. Hairman.com/Howie.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
We went to the White House for the Christmas party. In your opinion, what was the highlight?
The highlight of my trip to the White House with Grace, there were two. Number one, when we walked into Trump International Hotel, which she'd been dreaming of going to, and her eyes were wide. And then when the president actually came down the stairs, her eyes were even wider. She was so in awe of being there. I really felt like King Farouk, you know? I felt like I was giving someone a really great gift that they couldn't get otherwise.
You've had some really good interviews over the years. Which one was your favorite?
I can't really say what the best interview I ever had, but one that just occurred to me was Jesse Helms, the senator from North Carolina. I interviewed him one time, and he went to high school with my mother in Monroe, North Carolina. And the first words out of his mouth were, "Howie, I know your mother before you knew your mother."
He's New England's talk radio king. He's Howie Carr.
The only French term I like is sans culotte, without trousers. I used to describe Ted Kennedy as sans culotte because after the O'Bar incident, when he was wandering around down on the beach, with his 20th Scotch tumbler of the day in his hand, stumbling around with he was just there, as the Michel Casson Patches Date said, he was just there without trousers, or as we say in Paris, sans culotte.
We've seen nothing that we can work, that I can work with President Bush on, and I'm disappointed because I thought that there might be some interest because of what he said in the campaign.
President Bush, this is your brain. This is your brain on Botox, okay? That's the lesson of that one.
You're listening to the Howie Carr Show.
Old New England Soap is committed to producing the highest quality organic and goat milk soaps available anywhere. We take pride in using the purest ingredients and avoiding the typical shortcuts used by other soap makers. Because goat milk is what feeds your skin, we have formulated our soap to use the maximum amount of goat milk possible, 38%, more than double any other brand. Not because it's easy, but because our soap is always better. We are proud to offer you what we consider to be truly premium quality handmade soaps. What's more, our soap does not contain GMO ingredients, pesticides, sulfates, dyes, artificial colors, alcohol, or petroleum products. Try our new shampoo bar and pooch soap, and be sure to see all of the great scented woodwick soy candles that burn soot-free for up to 100 hours. Right now, save 15% on your order and get free shipping on orders over $45.
That was fine.
Buy now at oldnesoap.com. That's oldnesoap.com. Not available in stores. oldnesoap.com.
Eden Pure will continue their buy one, get one free promotion for the Thunderstorm air purification system all week long. Eden Pure is able to do this due to the huge success from the Howie Carr Show listeners. The response has been tremendous, and Eden Pure is passing on those savings to the listeners. The Thunderstorm is a small device you can hold in your hand and plug into the wall. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm works like a real thunderstorm. It quietly sends out super oxygen and ions to kill odors in your room. Over the weekend, I saw my daughter Carolyn, and she asked if she could have one for her basement in her new home. She asked if it really works, and I said, of course it does. You won't believe it.
If you bought one for your home and enjoy the big difference in smell, take advantage of the BOGO offer now and buy one for a family member like I'm going to do for Carolyn. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word HowieBOGO. That's EdenPure.com. And with code word HowieBOGO, shipping is free.
He's the gaff that keeps on giving. Here's 1 minute of former Vice President Joe Biden.
You teachers who touch them, figuratively speaking, well, I hope you touch them and tell them how much you love them too. But my point is, when you touch their hearts.
I get in trouble some of the things I say, but I want to tell you, just be straight up. If I'm your president, with me, it starts here in my gut, goes to my heart, and then I articulate it.
And by the way, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back.
Better strap yourself in. It's time for the Howie Carr Show.
CNN has a major projection to announce, and that is Joe Biden will win Arizona. He is the winner of 11 electoral votes in Arizona. Look at the votes, a little over 11,000 margin, 49.4 to 49.1.
This ain't over. This ain't over by a long shot.
It was rigged, and I demand a recount.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
This week, 82 years ago, Kristallnacht happened. It was the Nazis' warning shot across the bow of our human civilization. After 4 years of a modern-day assault on those same values by Donald Trump, the Biden-Harris team pledges a return to norms, including the truth.
Well, what a terrible thing to say. How could you think that?
This is CNN.
Who's your captain? Howie Carr.
This is a great day for our country. We get to take our democracy back.
What do you say to those who are criticizing you, where less than a week ago you went out and stood before a massive crowd who was celebrating Joe Biden's victory, and now you're saying your city has to shut down? How do you have one and not the other?
There are times when we actually do need to have relief and come together, and I felt like that was one of those times. That crowd was gathered whether I was there or not.
Objection! These remarks are profane and irrelevant.
Unchained and unstoppable.
President Trump believes he will be President Trump, have a second term.
It would look pretty bad if he did not attend the inauguration. It would look like sour grapes, wouldn't it?
I think the president will attend his own inauguration. He would have to be there, in fact.
Rump swabs, hacks, and moonbats beware. It's Howie Carr.
The president will be speaking in a few minutes from the White House on COVID-19, and I don't know if he'll be taking any questions or not as the recounts and the court challenges continue. Just heard Christiane Amanpour from CNN talking about the last 4 years. I mean, the fact is that the Trump administration has not violated anyone's civil liberties. That's more than you can say for the Obama-Biden years with the Tea Party persecutions by the Internal Revenue Service, what the FBI did surveilling reporters from Fox News to the Associated Press, the phony FISA warrants with the corrupt FBI and the DOJ. I mean, talk about a projection here. Once again, it just never ends with these Democrats. Everything that they're accusing Donald Trump, the Republicans, us, deplorables of doing, they're doing themselves in spades. It really is breathtaking to watch it day after day. And you know what? I try not to watch it. That's why I don't watch CNN, even when I'm in an airport, even when I'm in an emergency room. I'm not at a hospital. I'm not watching CNN or MSNBC. I'm watching Newsmax. Right, Grace?
Indeed, Howie. A lot of people are watching Newsmax according to the ratings, but also there's just a lot of news today. And before the president comes out, I'm not sure if he's going to take questions. I've heard he might, but who knows? I want to get to some other news. I don't know if you saw this headline, Howie, about Dr. Anthony Fauci. He is making headlines again for his comment about the American spirit. And what I want to do, Howie, is I want to read you this quote, get your reaction, and then I want to play some quotes from an interview you did yesterday with Dr. Scott Atlas, who works at the White House now, in regards to the coronavirus and just how different these two men are seeing these things. This was the quote from Anthony Fauci. I was talking with my UK colleagues who were saying the UK is similar to where we are now because each of our countries have that independent spirit. I can understand that, but now is the time to do what you're told. End quote. Now is the time to who elected this guy to tell me or you to do what we're told? The same people who elected Joe Biden, the media, of course. But Howie, I thought it was fascinating because you had your interview yesterday with Dr. Scott Atlas, and not only did he say that the lockdowns don't work, which seems to be very evident to anyone who has eyes, he also said that we have to resist these lockdowns because the government is just going to remember basically, you know, how much we acquiesce to all these demands that they put on us. The first clip I want to play is in regards to the lockdowns. This is cut 24.
People are irrational and denying the evidence. I don't understand what they're saying. It is not based on fact. What happens is you lock down. We see it all over Europe, all over the place. The cases are now sort of exploding. These are countries that did severe lockdowns. This is not a question anymore. And it's just really, outrageous that they're talking like that. They either don't know the data, they don't know the science, they're denying the science, or they don't understand it.
And now this is the part that I found the most interesting of the interview yesterday, which, by the way, if you want to hear the whole thing, you can get that at howiecarrshow.com. He goes on to say, we should not listen if they tell us to lock down again, which is now being rumored in a lot of different states, including Massachusetts, where I am right now. They're talking about, reverting back to the lockdown. So this is cut 25.
The country has to get a grip here and have rational thinking. And if you want to live a life where there's continual lockdowns and never have a normal life again, then you'll sit there and accept it. I think one of the shocking things that we all should realize is not just that there's this power of government that we never foresaw, where you can close down schools, businesses, confine people to their homes. But what shocks me even more is that people will acquiesce, Americans will acquiesce to that sort of a incredible overreach of the government.
It's interesting. It's interesting, Grace, because he was on with our show last night. Dr. Scott Atlas, he's the coronavirus advisor to the president.
Right.
The Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito spoke to the Federalist Society last night, and he said that the coronavirus pandemic has, quote, highlighted disturbing trends in the law, such as dominance of lawmaking by executive fiat rather than legislation, which he characterized as the movement toward rule by experts. And I'm going to put those experts in air quotes there. But, that it's the same thing. I mean, again, where does Fauci have the authority or the audacity is more like it, the audacity to say something like that, to tell everybody to follow his rules? I've never seen Dr. Fauci's name on a ballot. What does he ever run for? He's a bureaucrat. He's never even, when was the last time he was in an emergency room? When was the last time he set somebody's broken leg or prescribed some medication for somebody in a clinic? He's a bureaucrat.
Well, Howie, we're going to continue with this conversation, but first I want to let everyone know that Grace's News is brought to you by Tux Trucks GMC. Yes, it is unseasonably warm here right now, but I'm hearing that is going to end very soon. You will need a plow. It's time for a new Fisher snowplow or spreader from Tux Trucks. They have all of the plows you need. They can install them. They can, you could just drive right off the lot and not have to worry about a thing. So visit TuxTrucksGMC.com and get a Fisher, or visit them in Hudson, Massachusetts, or call 1-800-MY-TRUCK. Okay, Howie, so I want to get back to this conversation because I think you brought up a lot of good points. And I think a perfect example of this is Governor Gavin Newsom, who is finding himself, he's the California governor, he's finding himself in a bit of a jam because once again, they cannot practice what they preach. So remember.
I'm going to try not to let this destroy my faith in the integrity of the morals and ethics of our national leaders who want us all to wear masks forever and not go to Thanksgiving.
Try as you might, this might shake your faith in Gavin Newsom. You'll remember he was kind of the first governor to put out these Thanksgiving Day rules. At least he was the one who garnered the most attention. Some of those rules, before I tell you this story, some of the rules included no more than 3 households gather together. Right. Your Thanksgiving must be outside. It must last less than 2 hours. You can use a restroom inside as long as it is properly sanitized. And there should be no singing or chanting. Okay? Now, I want you to keep that in mind as I tell you that Governor Gavin Newsom recently was at a party at a restaurant called the French Landry in Napa, a birthday party.
Oh, that's in the wine country.
Yes.
Doesn't his family own a winery?
You would know better than
doesn't
me,
Doesn't everybody own a winery?
Well, I think Nancy Pelosi does as well. So all of these California Democrats certainly do. So several households were together. It was a birthday party. It was the exact kind of celebration that Governor Gavin Newsom has been trying to get
railing against. And not only that, but really scaring people. I mean, if you read some of these stories out of San Francisco, people are reacting to these things and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe these are real rules we have to follow. And it turns out you don't really have to follow them because if the governor doesn't follow them, why should anybody else? It's the same thing with Governor Pritzker's daughter in Chicago. I mean, he's imposing these draconian rules. He's been shutting down all the bars in Chicago and the suburban areas around Chicago, and then his daughter. Someone got a picture of her and put it on social media, going to a party at a fancy restaurant in downtown Chicago with 14 people. 14 is definitely above all the limits of all lockdown governors, right?
And I see a lot of people, they'll come back at Republicans who point out this hypocrisy and they'll say, well, you guys all go to Trump rallies or, there's big crowds of this. But we are not enforcing these rules. We're not, we're not fans of this kind of way. We want people to be able to choose what they feel safe doing. It's freedom of choice. It's your personal choices. And I say that to people all the time, Howie. If someone says, oh, I know I'm wearing a mask, it's weird. I say, you got to do what you have to do. Just don't tell me what to do. And that's the problem with Governor Gavin Newsom. He spends so much time telling people what to do.
In Massachusetts, we have a box on the income tax form, and you can voluntarily pay at a higher rate. And I always rail against politicians who want to raise taxes and then don't check the box to pay at the voluntary higher rate, because nobody does. Maybe 300 out of 4 million tax filers. And people always say, well, you don't pay either. And my response, Grace, is the same thing. Because it's okay, because I'm not telling other people that they have to pay higher taxes. I'm not a hypocrite.
Exactly. I want everyone to do whatever they want on Thanksgiving, whether that's masks and gloves and beehive suits or whether it's hanging out with your friends. I really don't care. But I think telling people what to do is something that is far more of a liberal mindset than a conservative mindset.
All right. Thank you, Grace. Our listeners love the Thunderstorm air purifier and the reviews are in. Beatrice emailed me and Nancy sent me a card. The reviews are all the same. The Thunderstorm really works. Grace chimes in here. Grace?
I would totally agree with that because you know what? I have one of those, Howie. And right now, as I mentioned before, it is warm in New England. But what happens is the air gets very damp because it's almost like it wants to be cold, but it's still warm. And you need something to keep the air flowing through the house. And that's why I love the Thunderstorm.
Eden Pure will continue their buy one, get one promotion for the Thunderstorm air purification system. They're able to do this because of the huge success from the Howie Carr Show viewers and listeners. The response has been tremendous. Eden Pure is passing on those savings to the listeners. The Thunderstorm is a small device you can hold in your hand, like I'm doing right now. Plug it into the wall to purify the air from any odor, pet odor, kitchen smells, tobacco, or that damp smell lingering in your basement. I've seen large air purification systems that cost $1,000 and take up a lot of space. When you take advantage of the BOGO offer, the Thunderstorm is below $100 and doesn't take up any room. Also, no filters are needed. Take advantage of the BOGO offer right now and experience yourself what all the listeners are raving about. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word HowieBOGO. I'm Howie Carr.
Don't touch that dial. Howie Carr will be back after this.
This hour of the Howie Carr Show is brought to you in part by Bigfoot Maple Syrup. When you buy their delicious syrup and chocolate-covered blueberries, you are buying American and supporting America. Order today at BigfootMaple.com.
Are we starting to feel bad for Joe Biden? Sorta. Are we going to play his gaffes anyway? Of course.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Now we need to stand behind Jamie Harrison, the next president, next senator. I'm looking forward to appointing the first African-American woman to the United States Senate. Just like here in California, here in Nevada. Back in the spring, late fall, late spring, late winter, early fall. Anyway, you know what I mean. Look, tomorrow's Superstar Tuesday. I tell you what, I'm rushing ahead, aren't I? We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. It says you cannot have 20, 30, 40, 50 clips in a weapon. We'll see who's sleepy.
Mr. Vice President, thank you.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Christmas.
Sometimes I wake up and I think it's 1920, not 2020.
Here's how it works with my retirement accounts, and I'll bet yours too. If your 401k, your SEP, your IRA, whatever, is going up, you probably don't think very much about it, right? But if it's going down, well, there's nothing much else you can think of. So for the last couple of years, none of us have been worrying much about those quarterly statements. But lately, it's gotten a little worrisome. It's not that bad, not yet anyway, but what goes up must come down. Now is the time to start thinking about adjusting your investments. Gold and silver have always been a hedge against stock market volatility. Uncertainty about the future has traditionally meant rising prices for precious metals. Orion Metal Exchange is the only precious metals company I trust. Give Orion a call to get a free, no-obligation investment guide about protecting your future with an enduring investment in gold and silver. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, including peace of mind, by calling Orion Metal Exchange now. Call them today at 800-912-2300. And with Orion, you'll get more metal for your money. Call 800-912-2300. That's 800-912-2300.
Watch out, Joe Biden. You might have to share some of the spotlight because your running mate, Senator Kamala Harris, is certainly grabbing some attention for her own gaffes.
She was part of our culture. Yes, we wear those notorious B.I.G. t-shirts with a lot of pride. Best rapper alive, Tupac. He's not. You say he lives on now. We have got to, in America, reimagine how we are accomplishing public safety. And let's be clear, there is no vaccine for racism.
Let's just say there's a vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?
Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us. I will say that I would not trust Donald Trump.
This is Alex from East Bridgewater, Mass.
This is Ann in Saco, Maine.
This is John Succo from Hampton, Mass. And this is the Howie Carr Show.
This restaurant that Gavin Newsom was at, it's called French Laundry, but that's just one of those wry names that they sometimes give to fine dining establishments. And a texter tells me it's a 3-star Michelin restaurant. The cheapest meal is $350 per person. That's pretty steep, I would say. Today's poll question is brought to you by the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier. Eden Pure is continuing their buy one, get one free sale. Eliminate pet smoke and basement odors for good. My listeners love the little thunderstorm. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word HowieBOGO. Today, the city of Somerville, just north of Boston, announced that they are going to ban landlords from evicting anyone, even though the state eviction ban has ended. So if you're a deadbeat tenant in Somerville, you can continue to live on the arm and not pay any rent for the foreseeable future. And I've been wondering if the landlords are going to be allowed to not pay property taxes, since they're not going to be getting any money. But of course, to ask the question is to answer it. Taylor, what's the poll question today?
Should landlords still be allowed to evict non-paying tenants?
Yes, obviously.
Only 8% say no, obviously.
So that's how many deadbeats we have in the audience who haven't been paying rent. And again, they in the state of Massachusetts, they didn't have to pay rent from, I think it was March or April, all the way to the middle of last month. And most people were getting money from the government for not working. I mean, I appreciate that a lot of people lost their jobs, but most of them were taken care of in one way or another. And I don't see why there was any need to halt evictions all through the summer, but they did. And now they're used to not paying rent. So that's what happens in a blue city, in a blue state. 844-500-4242. And of course, Joe Biden's his COVID.
Trump's on.
Oh, Trump is on. Okay, we're going to switch over to Donald J. Trump for a little while.
Time of year. In the past 9 months, my administration has initiated the single greatest mobilization in U.S. history, pioneering, developing, and manufacturing therapies and vaccines in record time. Numbers like nobody's seen before. No medical breakthrough of this scope and magnitude has ever been achieved this rapidly, this quickly, and we're very proud of it, and had tremendous help from the military, generals, admirals, and many of the great people at the White House. Operation Warp Speed is unequaled and unrivaled anywhere in the world, and leaders of other countries have called me to congratulate us on what we've been able to do, and we've helped many countries with their ventilators and all of the problems they were having, and I'd like to congratulate everyone involved in this effort. It's been an incredible effort. As a result of Operation Warp Speed, Pfizer announced on Monday that its China virus vaccine is more than 90% effective. This far exceeds any and all expectations. Nobody thought they'd get to that level. And we have others coming, which we think will be at equal level, maybe more if that's possible. In July, my administration reached an agreement with Pfizer to provide $1.95 billion to support the mass manufacturing and distribution of 100 million doses, with the option to purchase a total of 600 million doses shortly thereafter. Our investment will make it possible for the vaccine to be provided by Pfizer free of charge. Pfizer said it wasn't part of Warp Speed, but that turned out to be a unfortunate misrepresentation. They are part. That's why we gave them the $1.95 billion. And it was an unfortunate mistake that they made when they said that. We will work to secure an emergency use authorization, which should be coming down extremely soon. And my administration will then coordinate the distribution of the vaccine, and it will be approved. I think, again, it will be approved very, very quickly, we hope. The average development timeline for the vaccine, including clinical tests and manufacturing, can take 8 to 12 years. Through Operation Warp Speed, we're doing it in less than 1 year. If you had a different administration with different people, what we've done would have taken, in my opinion, 3, 4, 5 years, and it would have
We're going to have to take a break,
forever.
but we'll be rolling on this, and we'll play the highlights when we come back in just a couple of minutes, and then we'll go back to the press conference, the president's first press conference in about a week. I'm Howie Carr.
Hear that sound? Yes, it's the welcome sound of a commercial having nothing to do with politics. Unfortunately, it's also the sound of a Matthews carol. Hello, New England. It's your old pal, Chris.
Can I listen
here.
to
You
it?
know, when it comes to crazy, My friends, for the rest of this holiday season, you'll no longer hear your beloved carols. It's our way of thanking both the singers who raise money for the charities and those of you out there who are not overly fond of our wicked, annoying carols. Thank you, and you're welcome all at once.
The press conference.
This seasonal return to normal commercial annoyance is brought to you by your pals at Matthews Brothers.
Matthews Brothers, Matthews Brothers, Matthews.
Any other country, so it shows obviously more cases. By vaccinating the elderly and the high risk, we will effectively end this phase of the pandemic and allow seniors to reclaim their golden years, the golden years of their lives, which is so incredible. And it's about time that they can have those golden years. Again, this process is starting right away. Millions of doses will soon be going out the door. They're all ready, waiting for that final approval. As soon as April, the vaccine will be available to the entire general population, with the exception of places like New York State, where, for political reasons, the governor decided to say, and I don't think it's good politically. I think it's very bad from a health standpoint, but he wants to take his time on the vaccine. He doesn't trust where the vaccine's coming from. These are coming from the greatest companies anywhere in the world, greatest labs in the world. But he doesn't trust the fact that it's this White House, this administration. So we won't be delivering it to New York until we have authorization to do so. And that pains me to say that. This is a very successful, amazing vaccine at 90% and more. But so the Governor Cuomo, will have to let us know when he's ready for it. Otherwise, we can't be delivering it to a state that won't be giving it to its people immediately. And I know the people of New York very well. I know they want it. So the governor will let us know when he's ready. He's had some very bad editorials recently about this statement and what's happened with respect to nursing homes and his handling of nursing homes. And I hope he doesn't handle this as badly as he's handled the nursing homes. But we're ready to provide it as soon as they let us know that they'll actually use it. And again, it's a very safe and a great vaccine. Already we have among the lowest case fatality rates, our country, anywhere in the world, the entire world. And we've performed significantly better than our peer countries. As far as therapeutics are concerned, my administration's also made critical investments in therapies that have helped reduce the mortality rate by 85%. That's, to me, one of the most exciting things. It's incredible, some of the antibody vaccines and others that have come out and have really helped people. 85%. Last month, the FDA approved remdesivir, and we've secured enough remdesivir to treat 850,000 patients. My administration finalized an agreement with Eli Lilly to purchase the first doses of their antibody therapy, which shows amazing results. This treatment will be available completely free of cost to patients. 5,000 units have already been shipped, and many more are going out the door as we speak. We've also reached an agreement with AstraZeneca for the large-scale manufacturing of their antibody treatment, which is excellent. We expect to issue emergency use authorizations for a number of additional treatments in the near future. Tremendous promise. But remember the 85% number. That's an incredible number. But we have some tremendously promising drugs online and ready to come out. We have ensured that our frontline workers have all the tools they need. My administration's invoked the Defense Production Act and related authorities over 100 times and have made a historic investment into our industrial base. All states that requested PPE from the federal government have received.
Why did you list yourself as an American Indian on this Texas bar application?
So, I grew up out in Oklahoma. So look.
Why did you check those boxes?
So.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
844-500-4242. The president continues to speak. He said that the vaccine will be available nationwide in April, except in New York. where Governor Cuomo says he doesn't trust who's delivering it. And here's an exact quote from the president.
Right away, millions of doses will soon be going out the door. They're all ready, waiting for that final approval. As soon as April, the vaccine will be available to the entire general population, with the exception of places like New York State, where, for political reasons, the governor decided to say, and I don't think it's good politically, I think it's very bad from a health standpoint, but he wants to take his time on the vaccine. He doesn't trust where the vaccine's coming from. These are coming from the greatest companies anywhere in the world, greatest labs in the world. But he doesn't trust the fact that it's this White House, this administration. So we won't be delivering it to New York until we have authorization to do so. And that pains me to say that. This is a very successful, amazing vaccine at 90% and more. But so the Governor Cuomo, will have to let us know when he's ready for it. Otherwise, we can't be delivering it to a state that won't be giving it to its people immediately. And I know the people of New York very well. I know they want it. So the governor will let us know when he's ready. He's had some very bad editorials recently about this statement and what's happened with respect to nursing homes and his handling of nursing homes. And I hope he doesn't handle this as badly as he's handled the nursing homes.
Wow, that was quite a shot.
But we're ready to provide it as soon as.
That's enough. He also keeps referring to it as the China virus and the China virus vaccine. I love it when he does that. So do a lot of the texters. And he just I love that he gave a shot to Andrew Cuomo, the governor. Is it still going on, Taylor?
And when you look at what happens during a lockdown, I just say it very loudly. It's horrible what happens with drugs, alcohol, depression, loss of jobs, business closures. It's a terrible thing. So this administration will not go, under any circumstances, will not go to a lockdown, but will be very vigilant, very careful. We understand the disease. It's a complicated disease, but we understand it very well. We ask all Americans to remain vigilant, especially as the weather gets colder and it becomes more difficult to go outside and to have outside gatherings. And with that, I just want to ask some very talented people to come up and say a few words. General Perna and Dr. Slawi have been incredible. The general is really getting started right now, but he's really, what we don't know and what people don't know, he started putting this all together 6 months ago, and you're going to see some real action. So, General, maybe you'll start it off, and then, Doctor, you'll go right after that. Thank you very much. And then we're going to finish it off with Mike Pence. Okay? Thank you. Please.
I don't think we need to stick with this. We can go take some calls here. 844-500-4242. Sounds like he's not going to take any questions about the recounts and the court challenges that are going on, which is probably just as well. But he did want to just, the questions being asked, where has he been? He was at the Veterans Day laying up the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown, obviously. But he's been calling up reporters like Byron York from the Washington Examiner, and he's been around, but he's been laying low. And again, I think that's a good strategy. He's letting Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell handle the press relations on these cases, and many other lawyers as well. But just to mention that before we go to the phone lines at 844-500-4242, just wanted to mention Joe Biden's his COVID advisors seem to be eager to have another lockdown, or at least some of them. Ezekiel Emanuel, we talked about him with Dr. Scott Atlas last night on the show, Dr. Death, as he's known, who thinks everybody over the age of 75 should be dead. And he wanted new lockdowns during the summer flare-up in the Sunbelt states. Remember that? Dr. Death. Then there's, and I'm reading now from a Wall Street Journal editorial, then there's Michael Osterholm, also a member of the Biden COVID committee, who now wants a new nationwide lockdown for as many as 6 weeks. I mean, this is just crazy. And he wrote a piece in the New York Times, an op-ed, and he was complaining that these lockdowns have got to be more draconian more stringent than they've been in the past. And he was complaining that Minnesota of all places, run by the nitwit governor, Tim Walz, who's, he's totally on team lockdown. And, but he allowed 78% of the people in Minnesota, the workforce, to be declared essential. Of course, there's no such thing. If you have a job, you're essential to somebody, your family, your employer, yourself. But he's angry that states like Minnesota, a Democrat state, allowed 78% of their workers to be declared essential. This is what he wrote. To be effective, the lockdown has to be as comprehensive and strict as possible. As the Wall Street Journal points out, the costs of severe lockdowns are horrendous. The U.S. is still recovering from the spring catastrophe when the jobless rate surged to 2 months to 14.7%, the highest since the Great Recession. Tens of thousands of businesses closed. Many will never reopen. The human cost is even worse. President Trump mentioned this in his comments. He's mentioned it over and over again. The rises in drug addiction, alcoholism, depression. A quarter of 18 to 24-year-olds have reported suicidal thoughts and increased substance abuse. Half of them reported symptoms consistent with a depressive disorder, according to a CDC survey in June. Some 13% of Americans said they started or increased substance abuse to cope with the pandemic. We should have learned by now that the best response to these surges is to protect the vulnerable, maintain social distance protocols, and wear masks when in close quarters indoors while getting on with as much as possible with normal life, education, and commerce. The problem with Mr. Biden's advisory committee, there's so many problems with Mr. Biden, but this is his advisory committee on COVID, is that its members are part of the conformist COVID clerisy, who think lockdowns dictated from on high are good for the little people. That's it. I mean, that's what this is all about. Pritzker's daughter, Gavin Newsom. The mayor of Washington, D.C. was also caught in one of these things, Mayor Bowser. She wants a 2-week quarantine for everybody who's going in and out of certain states from D.C. And one of those states is Delaware. So she went up to the victory celebration in Delaware for Biden on Saturday. And so some reporter had the temerity to ask her, are you quarantining for 2 weeks since you went to a high-risk state like Delaware? And she said, oh, that was an essential visit. So it's essential for them to do whatever they want to do, and it's essential for us to follow the orders, as Dr. Fauci said. It's important that we follow the orders. Patrick, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Patrick.
Hey, Howie, how are you today?
Good.
Good. Hey, Howie, I just wanted to mention you had, I think it was in January, it may have been sooner, Tom Fitton on the air.
Yes.
Talking about this voting by mail scam. And Fitton said that he had warned Republican leaders what this thing really was. And you said you were at a party somewhere in a big Republican shindig in Massachusetts, and you told them, and all they said was, we'll have to get good at voting by mail too. You know, Howie, I wrote an article, I'm a freelance writer, and it's on this site called The American Thinker, and it concerns voting by mail fraud. And the whole thing of voting by mail is you have to vote in a booth. This was a progressive reform in the late 1870s.
Yeah, I know. Put that reform in quotation marks. Patrick, believe me, they knew they had this problem coming up. And I mentioned another shindig I went to right before I came down to Florida, and Donald Trump Jr. was there. This was in Massachusetts, and I was talking to one of the money guys for the Republican National Committee, and he said that they had already spent or raised $25 million to try to fight this thing. They knew it was coming. I mean, how many times did Trump mention it on the campaign trail over and over again? He knew it was coming. And the Democrats were even saying that there was going to be a red mirage on election night, but stand by because they were going to flood the zone, as they say in football, with these paper ballots. And it looks like, though, so many of them were fraudulent. I mean, why were all these ballots all over the country just marked with one vote for Biden. Sidney Powell has said there are 450,000 at least that they've counted, 450,000 that they've counted with just one vote for Biden. How believable is that? And 450,000 ballots would turn around just about all of these states. There's no, some of these states, the margin is like 10, 11,000 votes. Thanks for the call, Patrick. Bruce, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, well, really, this is me, Howie. I moved down the street from my family's church. I'm like 100 yards away from my church, and I can't go there anymore. And there's all kinds of things that Charlie Parker's making it so we can't even socialize, go to the South End Italian Club, or go to the St. Anthony's Club, or go to the
I don't know how many of these clubs are going to survive. These little social clubs, veterans posts or ethnic clubs. They rely on basically two types of fundraising. They rent out the halls, which you can't do anymore, and they have little bars or tap rooms, whatever you want to call them, and they're shut down. And again, they have to pay their utilities. They have to pay upkeep. They have to pay property taxes, I'm assuming. And how are they ever gonna come back? I don't know how they're gonna come back. There was a ruling yesterday in California. The churches have been shut down. They've been complaining. There's been some civil disobedience. The strip clubs went into court, I think somewhere in Southern California, and a judge ruled that the strip clubs could reopen. But the churches haven't been able to win a case like that. So in California, or at least in parts of California, the strip clubs are open, but the churches are closed. I mean, it makes no sense. And again, maybe the strip clubs should be open, but if the strip clubs are open, the churches should be open, and so should all these social clubs. It's ridiculous. Wait till you hear the Charlie Parker cuts from tonight. You're not going to believe it when we do it on the local hour. If you haven't tried Super Beets Soft Chews, you're missing out. It's a great, great product. Tastes like candy. It's wrapped in foil like candy. And the difference is it's not bad for you. It makes you feel better. It's good for your heart health. It's good for your blood pressure. It's good for your circulation. And it has no caffeine in it. It's great. Super Beets Soft Chews. I'm holding this is a bag, a well-used bag, because we've used most of it. It's a great product, but it combines non-GMO beets with a powerful new ingredient, grapeseed extract. The grapeseed extract used in Super Beets Chews has been clinically shown to be twice as effective at supporting normal blood pressure as a healthy lifestyle alone. Super Beets Chews promotes heart-healthy energy the way nature intended, without caffeine or stimulants. Now you can take just 2 delicious chews a day, anytime, anywhere, to get the blood pressure support and energy that you want. And if you love Super Beets Chews, you'll love their all-new, delicious vitamin D3 chews. Look at that. That's another bag, but it's great stuff. Vitamin D3 has been in the news a lot for its ability to support immune health. Humans' all-new vitamin D3 chews also provide high-potency vitamin D3 for a convenient and delicious way to support your immune health year-round. Just take 2 of either product once a day, two of them. And I have one before breakfast even, and I have one before the show. Gives me a burst of energy, keeps me going through the hours I'm on the air. Now you can get a free bag of vitamin D3 chews and a free bag of Super Beets chews when you buy 2 bags of Super Beets chews at superbeetsradio.com/Howie. That's right. When you purchase 2 bags of Super Beets chews, they'll throw in a free bag of Super Beets chews and a free bag of vitamin D3 chews. Hurry to superbeetsradio.com/Howie. superbeetsradio.com/Howie. I'm Howie Carr.
You're tuned
Can
into
you
the
put
Howie
the
Carr Radio Network.
thing back on?
Who need it first. And then we have plans to ensure that it spreads exponentially across our country and that no place is left without a vaccine.
He said exponentially.
Success is going to be judged by the availability of the vaccine as shots go in arms. It is the partnerships we have formed with the pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and Moderna distribution companies like McKesson, FedEx, and UPS, and pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens that have agreed to do things differently, to think, how can we get this to the American people in the most rapid and expeditious way? We will be successful because of this all of America approach, this collaboration, this effort that everybody is leading towards.
Is this General Norm Crosby?
This is about saving lives, the lives of the great American people. And we will not rest until we are successful and that we have irreversible momentum to returning our nation back to normal. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, General, very much. Great job. Alex, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, for providing the leadership that's gotten us where we are today. The success that Operation Warp Speed has realized so far has been made possible only because of the bold vision you announced not even 6 months ago, right here in the Rose Garden. To highlight 3 of the remarkable accomplishments we've seen just this week. First, Pfizer announced very promising data on its vaccine candidate. Second, the FDA authorized and we have begun to distribute and administer Eli Lilly's monoclonal antibody to help Americans at risk for serious disease stay out of the hospital. Third, another vaccine company, Moderna, announced that it's reached a critical clinical trial milestone, meaning we may see data from them within days. Back in the spring, we were told by all of the experts that a vaccine was a year or a year and a half away. And the announcements I just highlighted would have been unthinkable. The president said that's not acceptable. And thanks to the support he's provided, we're now on track to deliver a safe and effective vaccine to our most vulnerable this year. As I worked with the president to assemble this team and organize this effort, his support was indispensable at each step of the way. We went out and found the very best people on the planet to do the job, who you just talked with. Dr. Slaoui, the world's most successful vaccine developer. General Perna, one of the world's most qualified logistics leaders. When I first talked to Dr. Slaoui and General Perna about our goals and recruited them to this effort, we dreamed of being at the point we're at today, on track to achieve the incredibly ambitious goal we set together. The president...
Hi, this is Val from Longmeadow, Mass.
Hi, this is Tony and Pietra from Haverhill, Massachusetts.
This is Myrnie in Fairfax County, Virginia, and this is the Howie Carr Show.
844-500-4242, and I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're a new viewer, we appreciate you giving us a chance, and we hope you will enjoy watching Newsmax in the weeks and months to come. Let me just read you a little bit more about this, what happened in D.C. with this mayor, Muriel Bowser. Here's the headline from the Federalist. D.C. mayor tightens lockdown, then ignores it because all her activities are essential. Last week, the mayor released this from the Federalist. Last week, the mayor released an updated list of states from which individuals traveling to Washington should, quote, self-quarantine for 14 days from their arrival in the district. That list included Delaware, site of Biden's Wilmington rally. Through her chief of staff, Bowser claimed her trip constituted essential travel, which therefore exempted her and her staff from her own quarantine order. The mayor and her staff reportedly met with Simone Sanders, an advisor from the Biden campaign. Well, that's good to know. She's essential. You and I aren't essential. She's essential. Steve, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Howie, thanks for taking my call. This is kind of a little bit with what Steve Cortez was saying yesterday on your show.
Yes.
I was looking at your numbers just north of you there with Sununu. He gets 515,000 votes plus. He only got 353 in 16, but won. Trump gets 365,000 votes in 2020. Sununu gets 150,000 more votes than Trump does in New Hampshire this year. And then if you look back, they were pretty close to the same in the 2016 election, and probably with Gary Johnson in the 2016 election with Clinton and Trump.
Well, Steve, I mean, the bigger mystery in New Hampshire is how could the president lose the state by 7 points. And yet down ballot, the Republicans took over. They flipped both houses of the legislature. They won in the House. Again, they have a 400-member House in New Hampshire, largest one in the country. They flipped 56 seats. 56 seats. They flipped the Executive Council, which is it's a New England type of body, but it's a very important one. They flipped it from, I think, 3-2 Democrat to 4-1 Republican. How can they do so well down ballot? And the president gets basically skunked. He lost worse in 2020 than he did in 2016. In 2016, he lost by fewer than 3,000 votes. And there were a lot of same-day registrations in the college towns. I think there was a lot less of that this year because a lot of these colleges are basically doing virtual learning, that these students weren't just heading down to the local precincts in places like Durham and Hanover and Plymouth and Keene to vote. It didn't make any sense. I mean, it's not like the election's going to be decided apparently by 4 electoral votes in New Hampshire, but I mean, people are scratching their heads up there as well. I don't blame you for asking that question. There are all kinds of weird things happened across the country. Thanks for the call, Steve. Dennis, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Dennis.
Howie, how you doing? Listen,
Good.
You don't think they're going to be able to steal 2 Senate seats when they just stole the presidency? You really need to wake up Corey Lewandowski and tell them to get down to Fort Benning, Fort Stewart, Fort Gordon. I used to be on active duty in Georgia, but I was still a resident of Massachusetts. Every soldier there can qualify for Georgia residency. They need to get a push out for the vote, register those troops, and get them to vote by December 7th.
I agree, Dennis. I don't know if you've seen this, but people like Marco Rubio are down there. Ted Cruz is down there. Yeah, the Republicans understand that. I think the Republican National Committee has already sent or committed $20 million to those 2 campaigns. They're taking nothing for granted, Dennis. You make a great point. It just seems like it's going to be really hard for these. There are a couple of weak candidates, Warnock and Ossoff, but you can't take anything for granted. You're right. Have a good weekend. I'm Howie Carr. Our listeners love the Thunderstorm air purifier, and the reviews are in. Lisa wrote, "The Thunderstorm is everything Howie Carr claimed it would be. I have 3 dogs and 3 birds, but you wouldn't know it now." Another stated, "The Thunderstorm exceeded my expectations. It will be even more handy when winter arrives and we cannot open the window. Winter is coming, so plan now. Eden Pure will continue their buy one, get one promotion for the Thunderstorm air purification system. Eden Pure is able to do this due to the huge response from the Howie Carr Show listeners. The Thunderstorm is a small device you can hold in your hand and plug into the wall to purify the air from any odor. It could be pet odor, tobacco odor, kitchen smells, or that damp smell that you may have in your basement. I've seen large air purification systems that cost $1,000 that take up a lot of space. The Thunderstorm is below $100 and doesn't take up any room. Take advantage of the BOGO offer now and experience yourself what all the listeners and viewers are raving about. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word Howie BOGO. That's EdenPure.com Howie BOGO. Shipping is free.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
If Mr. Gooner was a person, what college would she attend?
The U.S. Coast Guard Academy.
Is Mr. Gooner a conservative or a Democrat?
Mr. Gooner is a fiscal conservative and a social liberal.
If you could have dinner with any president, dead or alive, who would it be?
Calvin Coolidge. He was from Massachusetts, and I liked his attitude towards public sector unions. And he said, the business of America is business. He's my guy.
Other than yourself, which columnist do you respect the most?
The late George Fraser, he was a columnist for the Boston Herald, the Boston Globe. Most people have forgotten him now. Jimmy Cannon was pretty good. He was so good that Mike Barnacle used to steal stuff from him all the time. Breslin was good in his early days, not so good later on, but when he was working for the Herald Tribune back when I was a kid in New York, he was damn good.
He might not be flashy, but he's there when it counts. Here's 1 minute of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
For the first time in my memory, I agree with Nancy Pelosi. I am indeed the Grim Reaper when it comes to the socialist agenda that they've been ginning up over in the House.
You watch the fight, you watch the tactics, but here's what I want to tell you. In the very near future,
Judge Kavanaugh will be on the United States Supreme Court. Noted with great interest the Green New Deal. And we're going to be voting on that in the Senate. We'll give everybody an opportunity to go on record and see how they feel about the Green New Deal. Well, first on the impartiality issue, do you think Chuck Schumer is impartial? Do you think Elizabeth Warren is impartial?
No.
Bernie Sanders is impartial? So let's quit the charade. This is a political exercise. Nobody is supposed to be guilty until proven innocent in the United States of America. Look, we're at an impasse. We can't do anything until the speaker sends the papers over, so everybody enjoy the holidays.
You're listening to the Howie Carr Show.
Here's how it works with my retirement accounts, and I'll bet yours too. If your 401k, your SEP, your IRA, whatever is going up, you probably don't think very much about it, right? But if it's going down, well, there's nothing much else you can think of. So for the last couple of years, none of us have been worrying much about those quarterly statements. But lately, it's gotten a little worrisome. It's not that bad, not yet anyway, but what goes up must come down. Now is the time to start thinking about adjusting your investments. Gold and silver have always been a hedge against stock market volatility. Uncertainty about the future has traditionally meant rising prices for precious metals. Orion Metal Exchange is the only precious metals company I trust. Give Orion a call to get a free, no-obligation investment guide about protecting your future with an enduring investment in gold and silver. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, including peace of mind, by calling Orion Metal Exchange now. Call them today at 800-912-2300. And with Orion, you'll get more metal for your money. Call 800-912-2300. That's 800-912-2300.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
Out of all of your books, which is your favorite title and why?
I think my favorite title is Hitman because it's very effective. I thought long and hard about it. We're going to make it Boston Hitman, but then why make it Boston Hitman? Just make it Hitman. Make it a universal subject.
If you could have dinner with one author, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would probably have dinner with William Shakespeare. I know that's a cliche response, but he was the greatest writer in the English language, no question about it.
If you won Mega Millions, would you retire completely?
I used to say no, I would not retire, but yeah, I think I would retire now.
If you had to leave all of your money to one charity, which would it be?
The Salvation Army. I like what the Salvation Army does. I don't think they have too many highly paid executives trying to be social justice warriors.
Biden might be the front runner for the Democrats, but that isn't stopping him from serving up a whole lot of gaffes. Take a listen.
I believe that the president is literally an existential threat to America for three reasons. One, he is a genuine threat to our... I had permission to hug Lonnie. He says, let's make America great again. Let's make America America again. I think I'm either low IQ or slow, or I don't know what I am. Slow Joe Biden. Thanks for the Mary, and I'm gonna be here a lot. I want the press to know she pulled me close. I just want you to know, okay? President Trump inherited an economy from Obama Biden. By the way, he gave me permission to touch him.
They can't even figure out how to deal with the fact that they have this great division between the China Sea and the mountains in the east. In the west.
Is he still speaking or is he taking questions?
You're listening to the Howie Carr Show.
We all love President Trump's off-the-cuff comments.
Can you ask him to put it on if it's still going on?
Speaking at a rally.
Doesn't trust
Take
the
a
fact
listen.
that it's this White House, this
way too early.
administration.
I thought she was
we won't
gone.
be
She's
delivering
emerged
it
from
to
the
New York until we have authorization to do so, and that pains me to say that. So the Governor Cuomo, will have to let us know when he's ready for it.
Yeah, it's all done.
It's all done. He didn't take any questions, I guess, huh?
I guess not.
No. Okay.
Start exercising. Got a bigger problem than I do. Now he goes home and his mom says, "What the hell have you just done?" How do you top that? I'm just ready. The big, beautiful crescendo, and this character's going back home. One person just going home to mommy a little bit sooner. These are phony people, but that's okay. When you think of it, I'm president and they're not. You really have to elect me. Whether you like me or not, it makes no difference because our country will go to hell if any of these people get in.
Hair loss is not one of life's more enjoyable experiences. If you're looking to fill in your hairline or reverse years of hair loss, DiStefano Hair Restoration will create a result that will be a transformative experience. The result of my IGT procedure was quite remarkable. I now have fuller, thicker hair so I can even wear it a bit longer. There are a few major decisions I've made in my life that I wish I did sooner. My hair restoration is number one. It was by far one of the best moves I've ever made. My hair looks awesome, and the confidence from having a full head of hair again has left me feeling great. I used to look in the mirror and dreaded seeing my ever-increasing bald spot. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see the new me with a full head of thick hair. For information on how to make the same choice I did, go to hairman.com/Howie. What are you waiting for? More hair to fall out? Get the hair you've always wanted. Hairman.com/Howie.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
Who was your favorite actor?
Humphrey Bogart, no doubt about it. I love all the old Humphrey Bogart movies. Jimmy Cagney would be a close second.
Do you have a celebrity crush?
No celebrity crushes.
Ginger or Marianne?
I always was a Marianne person. Never was bowled over by that Hollywood look. Plus, Ginger was in more revealing attire, scantily clad.
Salty or sweet?
Neither, but if I have to pick, I'll go with sweet.
Movies or TV?
TV.
McDonald's or Burger King?
McDonald's, although I'd prefer Five Guys.
Facebook or Twitter?
Better strap yourself in. It's time for the Howie Carr Show.
CNN has a major projection to announce, and that is Joe Biden will win Arizona. He is the winner of 11 electoral votes in Arizona. Look at the votes, a little over 11,000 margin. 49.4 to 49.1.
This ain't over. This ain't over by a long shot.
It was rigged, and I demand a recount.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
This week, 82 years ago, Kristallnacht happened. It was the Nazis' warning shot across the bow of our human civilization. After 4 years of a modern-day assault on those same values by Donald Trump, the Biden-Harris team pledges a return to norms, including the truth.
Well, what a terrible thing to say. How could you think that?
This is CNN. Who's your captain? Howie Carr.
This is a great day for our country. We get to take our democracy back.
What do you say to those who are criticizing you, where less than a week ago, you went out and stood before a massive crowd who was celebrating Joe Biden's victory, and now you're saying your city has to shut down? How do you have one and not the other?
There are times when we actually do need to have relief and come together, and I felt like that was one of those times. That crowd was gathered whether I was there or not.
Objection! These remarks are profane and irrelevant.
Unchained and unstoppable.
President Trump believes he will be President Trump, have a second term.
It would look pretty bad if he did not attend the inauguration. It would look like sour grapes, wouldn't it?
I think the president will attend his own inauguration. He would have to be there, in fact.
Rump swabs, hacks, and moonbats beware. It's Howie Carr.
The press conference is over. President Trump did not take any questions about the election recounts, court challenges, etc., or about anything else. But he really went after Cuomo. Kathy, one of our texters, said it was a beautiful thing. It really was a beautiful thing. My favorite quote about it. He said, the vaccine will be going out to the entire country in April at the latest. He said, except for New York, because he doesn't want it. And he said, he mentioned Cuomo, and he said, quote, "I hope he doesn't handle this as badly as he's handled the nursing homes." Ooh. But it's true. It's true. That's what made it work. All right. 844-500-4242. He had Mike Pence speak too. You know, they're speculating, where has Mike Pence been? It's the presidential election. The vice president, is not the point man unless he's at a funeral or something, or he's put in charge of a committee or a task force, like he was put in charge of the coronavirus task force. So he spoke. We're just going to have to stand by as this process continues. Time now for the chump line. Okay. Any day now.
Hey, Howie, where can I get my F. Fauci t-shirt?
How about this? Who elected Fauci? Did you vote for Fauci? I am so tired of that guy. He's the chameleon of this whole panic. You know, one day he says one thing, the next day he says another thing. Yesterday, everything was going to be fine again, right? Now that Biden thinks he's going to be president, he said everything was on the road to recovery 2 weeks ago. That we were going to have to wear masks and not go to any movies or concerts or ball games until 2022. And now today he's back issuing orders. It's like he's he's got some kind of personality disorder. He's a Democrat, I guess.
This is Governor King Charlie Baker. COVID doesn't take a holiday, so don't have Thanksgiving. COVID really likes turkey. COVID likes mashed potatoes.
Yeah. I guess he did it again today. He treats COVID as if it's some kind of living thing. You know, I mean, I'm sure if he could hear some preachers talking about the devil, you know, and the devil's coming after you, he would probably chuckle behind his back, being as how he's a Harvard educated man. But he treats COVID just like the devil. The only thing is he doesn't have a name for him. He doesn't call him Lucifer or Satan or Beelzebub. He just calls it the virus.
Careful with that kind of speech. It's Friday the 13th. We don't want to summon anything.
617 says it's Wheel of Fauci. Spin the wheel. Yeah, it is. Every day you get a different Fauci. You know, one day he says masks are ridiculous. The next day, masks are mandatory. The next day, he says everybody's got to wear a mask. Then he throws out the first pitch at the truncated baseball season, and he retreats to the stands and takes off his mask. Which is it, Doc? Which is it? The Chump Line is brought to you by Matthews Brothers, America's oldest window manufacturer, recalling a time when it was the Electoral College that determined who won the presidency, not the media. After all the recounts, court challenges, and after the state votes are certified. For the record, that date is December 14th.
Howie, Charlie Baker calling. I was disappointed to hear that the community has reached a grim milestone of 10,000 COVID deaths. None of these folks would have died if only Trump had instituted a national mask mandate and a 9:30 curfew.
I wrote my column today about how come it's never a grim milestone when it's Charlie Parker or another Democrat governor. It's always a grim milestone when it's a Republican governor or president. You know, grim milestone in Iraq, grim milestone in Afghanistan. Obama becomes president, and that's the end of the grim milestones. More American troops are being killed, but there's no more grim milestones. Same thing with they mentioned, a couple of the media outlets mentioned today that we'd crossed the 10,000 fatality threshold, but there was no headline that said grim milestone, was there? No, none. The Globe called it a milestone, but that was it.
The bad news is that the average apartment in Somerville is about $3,000. The good news is you can stiff your landlord.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I shouldn't laugh. I used to own a place in Somerville. I owned a couple places in Somerville. But you had this, you had people buying it and thinking, God, this is great. I'm not in Boston, but I'm closer to downtown in parts of Somerville, like where I live, than if I lived in West Roxbury or Roslindale. I can't go wrong with this place. And now they're stuck with a 3-decker where nobody's paying any rent. Nobody's paying any, and they don't have to. The city has told the landlords you can't evict them. But you do have to keep paying your property taxes, and you do have to keep paying your utilities.
Hey, Howie, I keep hearing you say that Mike Tyson loves his Raycon wireless earbuds, but I'm just curious, does that mean that Evander Holyfield gets half price?
Get it? Get it? That's a terrible thing to say. You shouldn't make fun of people's disabilities.
Why couldn't I have had a leaky pipe in 04? Would that it were.
He still thinks the election was stolen from him by the Secretary of State out in Ohio, Diebold. And, I always like, too, that if he had turned 60,000, John Kerry had turned 60,000 votes in Ohio, which he wasn't going to do because he didn't have them, he would have still lost the popular vote by 3 million, but that wouldn't have mattered then. They don't care about the popular vote if they're losing it.
Bernie Sanders wants to be Secretary of Labor, or does he want to be Secretary of Labor Camps?
Yeah, it's been that joke's been going around the last couple of days. It seems appropriate considering that he honeymooned in the Soviet Union and his soft spot for Venezuela and Cuba.
Howie, Joe Biden calling. Come on, man. Emmanuel Ezekiel will serve me well on the COVID task force. In fact, he and Kamala have already recruited a White House physician for me. Some guy named Dr. Kevorkian. I mean
it. It's too bad Joe's memory is shot, or he might want to ask Dr. Ezekiel Emmanuel if he still feels that everyone over the age of 75 should just go away and die.
Has anyone ever seen Christiane Amanpour and Rashida Tlaib in the same room together?
I bow to no one in my dislike for Christiane Amanpour, but to compare her looks to Rashida Tlaib is really not fair, even to someone as horrible as Christiane.
Yeah, Howie, Moleface won't let us go into church, but the strip clubs were open, so what we did is we rented the basement at the Squire, and nobody could peek when we left or went in. It worked out pretty good.
This was in California where they let the strip clubs open. I don't know what the status of the strip clubs is in Massachusetts. I'm sure Charlie wants to shut them down, though. He was ripping into youth hockey again. You know, if you're from Massachusetts or New England, and you grew up in the 60s or 70s, you usually played either basketball or hockey. And he was obviously, as he's told us over and over again, a basketball player. But most people who played basketball, they didn't have this visceral hatred for hockey that he seems to have. Or is it just the fact that people have fun playing hockey? I think that's what it is. They socialize. They go to these tournaments and they socialize. They make jokes and they laugh and they hit each other on the shoulder and they go out to eat. And their parents are with them and they're all bonding, and I just don't like it.
Fulton County's plumbers unit was more effective than Nixon's plumbers unit.
That's true. That's true. Nixon's plumbers unit was to get rid of the leaks in the administration, and they just ended up all getting indicted and going to jail. One of the masters at Deerfield, his brother was a plumber who I think ended up in the can. So I had a peripheral connection, very vague connection to the plumbers. I knew the brother of a plumber.
My condolences to Howie's family. He was 110% stand-up American man from the United States Marine Corps all the way to Winter Hill.
He was. Howie Winter is dead. He died last night. He had a heart attack at his house in Millbury. He was a really good guy. He got a text message from a CO at the Wyatt Detention Facility down in Rhode Island, where he was for a couple of years back in the 90s. And he said he was a truly nice man. I could never forget Howie. He had so many great stories. The wake is going to be held at the Doherty Funeral Home on Monday evening. That's in Somerville, and there'll be a funeral mass Tuesday at St. Clement's. So he's returning to his roots, Somerville.
That was your last chump line message. Thank you for calling Howie Carr, you chump.
All right, that's it for the Chump Line today. The Chump Line is the recorded voicemail message service of the Howie Carr Show. You can leave a message anytime between the hours of 1 and 5 p.m. every weekday. 1 and 5 p.m. each weekday. The number is 844-500-4242, 844-500-4242. Press 2 for the Chump Line. Leave your message. We may or may not play it at this time each weekday. And if you haven't had enough Chump Line messages for this evening, stand by for Chopped Chumps. It'll be posted right around the time we leave the broadcast airwaves, around 7 o'clock. Chopped Chumps. Those are the messages we left on the cutting room floor for this broadcast. And you can get Chopped Chumps wherever you get your Howie Carr Show podcasts. The Chump Line is brought to you by Matthews Brothers, America's oldest window manufacturer, recalling a time when it was the Electoral College that determined who won the presidency, not the media. After all the recounts, court challenges, and after the state votes are certified, for the record, that date is December 14th.
Howie, Joe Biden calling. Come on, man. Emmanuel Ezekiel will serve me well on the COVID task force. In fact, he and Kamala have already recruited a White House position for me. Some guy named Dr. Kevorkian. I mean it.
Don't let him put anything in the tapioca there, Mr. Vice President. I'm Howie Carr.
You're listening to the Howie Carr Radio Network.
Take advantage of limited time Black Friday savings and let HelloFresh spice up mealtime at home with simple recipes and fresh ingredients. Sourced directly from growers and delivered to your door, contact-free. With more than 22 weekly recipes, there's something for everyone to enjoy, including family-friendly, vegetarian, and low-calorie choices. You can finally say goodbye to never-ending meal planning and prepping. HelloFresh recipes are easy to follow, with simple steps and pictures to help you get meals on the table in as little as 20 minutes. Plus, by skipping the store, you save up to 40% on groceries, cut food waste by 25%, and save time. So you have more time to celebrate the holidays with loved ones. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code word Howie90 for $90 off, including free shipping during HelloFresh's Black Friday sale. For a limited time only, go to HelloFresh.com and use code Howie90 for $90 off. HelloFresh.com.
Joe Biden accuses Trump of being a racist, but if you listen to Biden's comments, you would agree that he doth protest too much.
Did you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not? What do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
He's the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean.
And Madam President, we have predators on our streets.
That kid wearing a hoodie may very well be the next poet laureate and not a gangbanger.
They are beyond the pale, many of those people.
God love you. You've been here all day. My Lord, you may feel like you're being incarcerated.
We have no choice but to take them out of society.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
I think the two-party system is good for the South and good for the Negro.
They're going to put you all back in chains. Unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump and you ain't black.
Eden Pure will continue their buy one, get one free promotion for the Thunderstorm air purification system all week long. Eden Pure is able to do this due to the huge success from the Howie Carr Show listeners. The response has been tremendous, and Eden Pure is passing on those savings to the listeners. The Thunderstorm is a small device you can hold in your hand and plug into the wall. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm works like a real thunderstorm. It quietly sends out super oxygen and ions to kill odors in your room. Over the weekend, I saw my daughter Carolyn, and she asked if she could have one for her basement in her new home. She asked if it really works, and I said, of course it does. You won't believe it. If you bought one for your home and enjoy the big difference in smell, take advantage of the BOGO offer now and buy one for a family member like I'm going to do for Carolyn. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word HowieBOGO. That's EdenPure.com. And with code word HowieBOGO, shipping is free.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self advice, what would you say?
Get a state job, because behind the job comes the pension.
What's the best advice anyone's ever given you?
Most advice is pretty forgettable.
What's the best money you've ever spent?
The investment I made to leave the corporate radio prison I was in, the worst people I ever worked for, no doubt about it. I'd probably be dead if I were still working for them.
If you were on a deserted island and you could only bring 3 things, what would you bring?
A radio, a Wi-Fi system, obviously, and a computer, and I would bring some books. Don't ask me which books, too hard a question.
What was your dad's job when you were growing up?
My dad worked as a resort hotel manager. He worked in Florida at the Breakers in the winter, and then he worked at the Mountain View House, as it was called then, in Whitefield, New Hampshire, and various other places.
This is Mark in Williston, Vermont.
This is Marie in Somerville, Massachusetts.
This is Mike from South Attleboro, Mass. And this is the Howie Carr Show.
Today's poll question is brought to you by the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier. Eden Pure is continuing their buy one, get one sale, eliminate pet smoke and basement smells for good. My listeners love the Thunderstorm, and you will too. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word HowieBOGO. HowieBOGO. Look at how small it is. Taylor, what's the poll question? What are the results thus far?
Should landlords still be allowed to evict non-paying tenants?
Yes, I cannot believe, as insane as Curtatone is, I can't see what the end game is here. Do they get to stay in these places forever? What happens when the landlord can't make the mortgage payments, can't pay the taxes, and the bank forecloses, or the city slaps a lien on the property for unpaid taxes? I mean, who's going to end up with the property? The deadbeat tenants? You think they're going to take care of it? It's just ridiculous. What are the
90% say yes, they should be able to evict tenants.
Somerville has changed a lot since the days when I lived there and Howie Winter lived there. In the old days, if you didn't pay your rent, somebody would come around. If there was not, you didn't have to go to the court, to the housing court. Somebody would come around. Your stuff would end up out on the sidewalk because there were no front yards, basically. Johnny, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Johnny.
Hi, Howie. Been listening to you since you were one of Jerry's governors.
Yes, thank you.
I know you like history and I know you like quotes, so I've got one that I think parallels this pandemic rage that's going on. It was said by John Mitchell in 1861. He was an Irish activist, and his quote was, "The Almighty indeed created the potato blight, but the English created the famine."
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know what relevance it really has though to this. I guess I get it. There was a problem, but the English made it much worse as a way to depopulate everything beyond the pale, as they say. Thanks for the call, Johnny. 844-500-4242. Here's a quote from Eric Hoffer. What starts out here as a mass movement ends up as a racket, a cult, or a corporation. I think you could say that about the pandemic too. It was a mass movement. People were scared for a while, but now it's a cult. It's a racket or a cult. And in the case of Baker, it's both a cult and a racket. 844-500-4242. We'll be right back with Police Blotter Facts Friday. I'm Howie Carr. If you don't want to replace your carpets due to pet stains and odors, you must try Genesis 950. Genesis 950 was my go-to product for Mr. Gooner. The reviews are amazing as this is one product that actually works. With water, it breaks down the bonds of stains so they are gone for good. Its antibacterial component removes pet owners from carpet and padding. Genesis 950 can be used in a carpet cleaning machine. Genesis 950 is made in America. It is a concentrate, so 1 gallon makes up to 7 gallons of cleaner. But Genesis 950 is not just for pet stains. I brought it to Carolyn's new home, and she couldn't believe the results. Use it in bathrooms, kitchens, floors, and for grease stains. It is great for degreasing engines, wheels, and tires. Consider trying Genesis 950 before purchasing new carpets. It is green, so it's safe for your family and pets. Genesis 950 has great customer service if you need to contact them. Order a gallon direct at genesis950.com, and you will receive a free spray bottle, free shipping, and discount using code Howie. That's genesis950.com. genesis950.com.
There are plenty of differences between Trump and the Democrats running for 2020, but the main one is Trump's pretty funny. Take a listen.
What advice would you give to the 25-year-old Donald Trump knowing what you know today?
Don't run for president. I'm not a drinker. I can honestly say I never had a beer in my life, okay? It's one of my only good traits. I don't drink. Whenever they're looking for something good, I say, I never had a glass of alcohol. I've never had alcohol. Can you imagine if I had? What a mess I'd be. I'd be the world's worst. Other countries, big countries, India and others, we had to pay because they considered them a growing country. They were a growing country. I said, what are we? Are we allowed to grow too? Okay. No, are we allowed to grow?
I try like hell to hide that bald spot, folks. I work harder. Doesn't look bad. Hey, we're hanging in.
I should have saved the Pocahontas thing for another year because I've destroyed her political career and now I won't get a chance to run against her, and I would have loved it. I don't want to knock out all of the good stuff and end up with somebody that's actually got talent. That would be terrible.
Here's how it works with my retirement accounts, and I'll bet yours too. If your 401k, your SEP, your IRA, whatever is going up, you probably don't think very much about it, right? But if it's going down, well, there's nothing much else you can think of. So for the last couple of years, none of us have been worrying much about those quarterly statements. But lately, it's gotten a little worrisome. It's not that bad, not yet anyway, but what goes up must come down. Now is the time to start thinking about adjusting your investments. Gold and silver have always been a hedge against stock market volatility. Uncertainty about the future has traditionally meant rising prices for precious metals. Orion Metal Exchange is the only precious metals company I trust. Give Orion a call to get a free, no-obligation investment guide about protecting your future with an enduring investment in gold and silver. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, including peace of mind, by calling Orion Metal Exchange now. Call them today at 800-912-2300. And with Orion, you'll get more metal for your money. Call 800-912-2300. That's 800-912-2300.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
Would you say you're more like your mom or your dad?
No, I don't think I ended up being like either of them now that I think about it. My mother worked hard, but she never really learned how to make a lot of money. And my father didn't work so hard, but he had a good personality. He was good with people. He was better than me with people. That's why I'm saying I'm not like either one of them, I don't think.
Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I have a brother, a younger brother.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Well, all kinds of history. I loved all kinds of history.
If you could have 3 houses besides the ones you already have, anywhere in the world, where would they be?
I wouldn't mind having another house in Palm Beach on Clark Avenue. Maybe a place in southern Maine. I don't need a third place.
Didn't you already have a house in Maine?
I did. It was on an island. It was not a good fit for the mailroom manager.
I've heard the house was haunted. Is that true?
Yes. And my wife didn't really care that much for my relatives.
Here's 1 minute of President Eric Swalwell.
Chris, so far, the evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
But I will always be real with you. I will be bold without the bold. Welcome to my fellow candidates, whom I consider we are all a part of being the Avengers. The Republicans in 2016, that was the Hunger Games. And, you know, it's said often that history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. And we heard a lot of rhymes yesterday.
My wife, Brittany, also wants you to know we've got 2 beautiful children, Nelson and Cricket. But the decision to have children was her choice.
I'm the only candidate calling for a ban and buyback on every single assault weapon.
Again, we have to have an ankle monitor on this president. This is the worst possible time for a serial offender like him to be running around unsupervised.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
Isn't it odd that Somerville is going to let its tenants live rent-free, apparently forever? They don't have to pay any kind of rent. They can't be evicted. And yet, just south of Somerville, adjoining the city of Boston, abutting the city of Boston, actually, on the Charlestown line, Boston is trying to evict the landlords of Faneuil Hall in Quincy Market for not paying rent. They haven't paid rent since August, I guess, and it's they owe $2 million. And the reason they can't pay any rent is because they're not getting any rents from the merchants, because the merchants are all shut down or out of business. Why can't the people, the landlords at the Quincy Market, get the same break that the tenants in Somerville are getting? I'm just asking that as a question, just raising the point. Now it's time for Police Blotter Facts Friday.
Whenever the laws of any state are broken, a duly authorized organization swings into action.
You know how Police Blotter Facts Friday works. All week long, we ask you to send in your funny stories or items from your local daily or weekly newspaper. Many papers have columns that are actually written by the police department, the police log, the police blotter, they call them. That's why we call it Police Blotter Facts Friday. Or it can be a standalone story. It just has to be funny or somewhat humorous, involving the local constabulary. You can send your stories every week to grace@howiecarrshow.com, grace@howiecarrshow.com, or you can still fax them to us, 857-284-8864. We still use the fax machine sometimes. I used it to get a scorching story that'll be running next week in the Herald, 857-284-8864, and that story involves the police, appropriately enough. And at this time each weekday, or each Friday, I should say, Grace reads the stories, and the two best entries of the week, in our opinion, get a nice prize. What do they get this week, Grace?
They will get a copy of your book, What Really Happened. I think it's important for people to keep the faith and remember how we got here in the first place. It was not from giving up, as Howie's book will tell you.
Yes, definitely.
All right, you ready for the runners-up, Howard?
Yes, these entries don't win anything, but they're good enough to be read in this.
They get a laugh. They get a laugh. Okay, first up, Florida man arrested after meltdown over lack of lettuce.
Lack of lettuce?
Yes.
Where was the lack of lettuce?
This was in Largo, a city in the Tampa Bay area.
Yes.
Angered that a burger joint had no more lettuce for their sandwiches, a Florida man allegedly caused a disturbance late Wednesday that resulted in his arrest. Henry Arce Caballero was beating on the windows of a Checkers restaurant. I think that's a chain, Howie.
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's a Florida thing. I've never been to a Checkers, but it sounds delish. He started melting down because he was upset that the store had no more lettuce for their sandwiches.
He started melting down? You mean like a slice of American cheese?
Yes. He was yelling and screaming at the employees. It was around 11:30 p.m. when the police showed up.
I'll bet the Checkers wasn't his first stop of the evening.
It doesn't say anything about drinking, though, which surprised me. But a national lettuce shortage has impacted restaurants across the country. Yes.
I haven't noticed that.
Chick-fil-A also alerted their customers that lettuce is running low, which is really a disappointment because on certain burgers, it can really add that fresh crunch.
It's also really surprising because all the salad bars have been shut down. Who's using all the lettuce now?
That's a good point, too.
This is, Howie, this is something we need to get on the case about. Inspector Carr.
Why couldn't they give him some arugula or Belgian endives? Those favorites.
Arugula on a cheeseburger?
Isn't that what Obama said about arugula? Didn't he make a comment about arugula when he was first running, or was that Mike Dukakis, some clueless Democrat?
I am very, very anti-arugula and spinach, unless it's cooked spinach. Both are not prime greens. Woman caught stealing at Walmart gives police her roommate's name.
If she'd been a twin, she would have given her the twins name, but she doesn't. She didn't. She did the nearest thing. She gave the roommate's name.
Why do I feel like they're not going to be living together much longer?
917 Grace. 917 Grace says that story about Ars Caballero. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
It's the tip of the arseberg.
Ha, 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 ha.
31-year-old Cody Beneke was charged with assault, theft, and criminal impersonation. That's the most interesting one. That's what got her on Police Blotter Facts. After she stole $57 worth of merchandise from Walmart and kicked a loss prevention officer while being detained. It was actually $57.13. She went to the self-checkout, then the customer service desk, and then proceeded to head for the door.
See, where was this?
This was in Nashville. This is from the Nashville Scoop.
If she wanted to do this, why didn't she move to California? She could have stolen $950.
I know. It's tricky. Loss prevention detained Cody and began to escort her to an office to await police arrival. During this process, she reportedly kicked the officer, which I mentioned, in the leg. This incident was caught on the security cameras at Walmart. She later provided her roommate's name, Kimberly Stevenson, to conceal her true identity. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Okay. Well, officers took her fingerprints while she was being booked. They discovered she provided a fake name to hide the 9 warrants she had. Officers also found 3 Narcan nasal spray units on her during booking. Before entry,
She was taking no chances. I'll bet that wasn't the first. I bet those weren't the first 3 Narcan canisters she'd ever used either.
I have to look up what this other thing is because I'm scared it's something bad and I don't want to say it on the air. Oh, okay. No, it must just be something for drugs. It says officers also found 3 Narcan nasal sprays. Before entry, officers recovered multiple needles, a wad of Chore Boy, and a spoon for heating meth. I guess a Chore Boy is some sort of sponge or something.
I don't know.
Oh, you two amateurs. You don't know? Come on, guys.
It's a Nashville thing. Bang.
I thought maybe it was a tobacco chew. I don't know.
Florida woman busted for self-care outside 7-Eleven. This is an interesting euphemism.
Self-care?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we all get it, but it's kind of
self-pleasure. Maybe?
It's kind of obscure, isn't it?
I was going to say private care, but self-pleasure is more of the right way to go about this. On September 30th, Vanessa Lee Jones of Newport Richey, Florida, was caught in front of a 7-Eleven convenience store pleasuring herself. To only make matters worse, she was also in full view of a man and his nephew.
Oh, I know why they said it that way, because that's part of the whole push to destigmatize that act.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There is a push to destigmatize it.
I think when you're
nobody wants to stigmatize it. Just get your they say get yourself a room. Why didn't she just get herself a car?
Jeffrey Toobin was fired over self-care.
She should have just
not
said
from
what
CNN. Is he still hasn't been fired from CNN, right?
She should have said this was just my election simulation that I was doing. I was just getting ready for election night. Jones was arrested and charged with felony, lewd, and lascivious exhibition, though prosecutors opted to not pursue any charges. This past Saturday, follow-up, Jones was busted again, committing the same kind of offense, but rather, she was doing it in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven. She was caught completely naked in front of Popeye's dumpster. According to the police report,
Popeye's dumpster? What was it? A Popeye's restaurant?
The restaurant, not the character.
Okay.
I don't know if he has a dumpster near his house. Oh, Popeye.
You'd never go in Popeye's dumpster because there'd be spinach in there, and you hate spinach. I heard you say that. I was thinking about making an olive oil joke when you said it, but now I have an opportunity again.
781 says having a fit over a lack of lettuce. He does have the right to remain silent.
Oh, very good. According to the police report, the 38-year-old, this is the weird part. It says, according to the police report, 38-year-old Jones showed no sign of being drunk or under the influence of drugs, and there was no evidence of mental health issues. That's where I beg to differ.
Yeah, exactly. 781 says, by the way, Choy Boy is used in a crack pipe to hold the drugs. Come on, man.
I
guess it's a steel wool.
Yes. I just
sorry
get nervous
about that
when I don't know what it is.
Who sent that text in? Hunter Biden?
We can't be experts in everything, guys. By the way, Police Blotter Facts Friday is brought to you by Piantadosi Baking Company, celebrating over 100 years of baking excellence since 1916. It's getting nice and chilly in New England, and it's wonderful to have a nice roll of Piantadosi with your soup or your meatballs and spaghetti. It's just the best bread, so make sure you check it out. Next up, officers use taser on half-naked man throwing rocks in Belmont Shore.
Don't tase me, bro. Don't tase me. I didn't do it.
Wow, that was beautifully put together, Taylor. That was like you planned that. Long Beach police used a taser to help arrest a man who was naked from the waist down. See, I do consider that half naked. If a man is naked from the waist down, that qualifies as half naked. When they don't have a shirt on, I don't think that qualifies.
Now, Grace, was he charged with lewd and lascivious or open and gross? I've always wondered what the difference is.
You're batting 0 for 0 here.
What was he charged with?
Indecent exposure.
Okay.
When they arrived, officers found the man throwing rocks at a construction site. Although it doesn't appear the rocks hit anyone, which is very good to know. Police used the taser when the suspect refused to comply with the responding officers. It's not clear why the man was throwing rocks. It's also unclear so far if the man was inebriated. Well, again, we don't know if he was suffering from mental issues. I think once you leave the house without the pants on,
did he have any chore boy? Did he have any chore boy with him?
It does not say. I cannot comment on that. Family. Wow.
Could we have some breaking glass? We need some breaking glass in there to, maybe he threw something through a window at the construction site.
How many sound effects do you think I can put out?
That's what I'm just asking. I'm thinking about this is like Dragnet. When one time Jack Webb used 55 different sound effects in one 30-minute show.
DJ Cormier on the boards.
I just tried to throw everything I could at you.
By the way, Howie, I'm going to read a story about an animal, but before I do, I wanted to mention.
Is it an alligator?
No, this is what I wanted to mention. So the alligator that is really going viral. Your daughter Charlotte sent it to me and the mailer manager this morning.
I sent it to you too, didn't I? I think I did.
I'm not sure, but it's huge. I mean, there's nothing police warranted about it, but people should really check out this.
That's not really,
alligator.
You know what? People have said this, and I agree. It doesn't look like an alligator. It looks like a dinosaur.
It looks like and you know why? Because the legs are so big. I cannot press this upon the listeners enough. If you have not seen this monster of an alligator, you must. And by the way,
he's also standing up pretty straight. Like usually the legs are pretty bowed and they have a lower stance, but he's got a good posture.
He does.
There's been a tropical storm on this peninsula of Florida for the last week, and it's just been driving everybody crazy because it comes back in and just keeps raining and raining. And apparently it didn't just drive mammals crazy; it's driven reptiles crazy, judging by this guy.
But you know what's funny is the New York Post put out an article, and I'm paraphrasing, but it said something like experts say there's nothing odd about this alligator, or that it was something like that. And I was just thinking to myself, well, no, it's massive. That's what's weird about it. I mean, it's definitely an alligator. No one's denying it, but it's just huge. So I just wanted to give people that heads up. I can't show you it right now, but you guys should really check it out. I'll put it in TweetBeat because I'm posting TweetBeat at the end of the show.
I think I tweeted it out, or someone tweeted it out on our account, I think, yesterday.
Oh, that might have been Charlotte.
Yeah.
That is possible. Family says cows broke into their new house in Montana. I don't know why.
That sounds like a lot of bull.
I thought there was going to be a sound effect, and then I realized there wouldn't really be one for that. Oh. See, Taylor always says he wants to move to Montana, but now I'm thinking there's been a lot of stuff lately since you said that.
Listen, the cows can move in if they want.
These cows moved in. And then in another animal story, before I go to break here, Howie, woman fights off coyote with pitchfork and donkey.
I saw that.
A Connecticut woman is receiving precautionary treatment for potential exposure to rabies after she fought off a coyote with the help of her donkey and a pitchfork last week. State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP, received a report that the woman was attacked by the wild animal on 2 occasions. The coyote bit her foot before it was kicked by the donkey in the first instance. The same day, the coyote attacked again when the woman was driving her car.
I know what I don't understand.
Home.
What I don't understand is after the
coyote.
first incident, don't you usually call 911 or get the animal control officer out to reconnoiter the perimeter or something?
Did she have like mutton in her pockets? Why was the coyote so determined?
We got to take a break here, and then we'll be back with the winners. I'm Howie Carr.
The paper boy with a big microphone. Howie Carr.
This hour of the Howie Carr Show is brought to you in part by the Follinsby Inn in North Sutton, New Hampshire. Do what Grace did and enjoy Kezar Lake, the foliage, and delicious food. To reserve your room, go to follinsbyinn.com. Special rates for midweek visits.
Hey, Howie, I see you got a haircut again.
Yes, I did, Grace. It looks good, doesn't it?
It definitely looks better than that haircut you got a few years ago before you met the president. Remember that bad buzz cut, Howie?
Geez, you love bringing that up, don't you?
Well, I just think that your bad haircut was a true testament to the wonderful work of Dr. Highness at DiStefano Hair Restoration. Because even though you looked crazy at the time, your hair grew back. And now you look as dapper as ever.
That's true. Dr. Highness did such a wonderful job on my hair. I love waking up every day not worrying about bald spots or a dreaded comb over. I now have a thick head of hair, and the best part of it is it's my hair. Getting a DiStefano hair restoration was the best decision I ever made.
Well, besides hiring me, right, Howie?
Like I said, Grace, it was the best decision I ever made.
You heard him, guys. Go to hairman.com to get the hair you've always wanted. Get hair like Howie's. Go to DiStefano Hair Restoration. They have 5 locations in New England, and they are open for business. That's hairman.com.
And now, some of my favorite fake Indian cuts of all time.
I'm not going to ask you for your favorite curse word. Actually, I am. Do you have a favorite curse word?
Poop.
Poop? Oh, that's a goody two-shoes favorite curse word if I ever heard one.
Are you kidding? Have you ever seen a woman like me look you straight in the face after you finished some long explanation of something and then just said, poop?
Hold on a sec. I'm going to get me a beer.
I am not sure what she's talking about as far as a rally with.
It was a rally in Bern, Oregon, is that you have to figure out who you are. I grew up in a family that was barely hanging on to the ragged edge of the middle class. And my Aunt B has walked by that picture at least 1,000 times, remarked that her father, my papa, had high cheekbones like all of the Indians did.
You've been hearing me talk about Super Beets for a while now, and I'm sure some of you are still thinking, why Super Beets? You could take it from me. The benefits of Super Beets are incredible. I take them twice a day, once in the morning when I get up, even before I have my first cup of coffee, and the other time in the afternoon, right before the show. It gives me a burst of energy. It's great for my blood pressure. It's good for circulation. It just makes you feel better. If that doesn't convince you, we can talk about the science behind Super Beets. Beets have nitrates. Nitrates support better blood flow, and better blood flow equals better energy and efficiency throughout the body, and even supports healthy blood pressure. But Super Beets does so much more than eating regular beets and is unparalleled compared to other beet powders. Just 1 scoop of Super Beets has the nitric oxide equivalent of 3 whole beets. Go to superbeetsradio.com/Howie and try out Super Beets yourself. www.superbeetsradio.com/Howie. www.superbeetsradio.com/Howie.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
You are known as a cheap bastard. Which one of your daughters is the cheapest and why?
Charlotte is the cheapest, and I say that because she's always using my credit card. We keep changing the credit cards over and over again, and she keeps busting in and using them again. Most recently, just this week, she spent $75 at AT&T.
What's the cheapest thing you do now to save money?
The cheapest thing I do currently to save money, I guess, is I take all the bottles and cans back to the market basket every weekend. I always like to save that money. You know, I can't stand to throw those bottles of cans away and have the unclaimed returns go to the state of Massachusetts for illegal aliens.
They have the
Do you
lowest theft
recycle?
rate in the
Yes,
country.
I do recycle. When I got on the town meeting, I saw that the town dump was probably the only department in the town that was running in the black, and it's because of all the recycling that was going on. So I try to keep my taxes down that way.
This is Jeff in Woodstock, Connecticut.
This is Laura Benner in South Burlington, Vermont.
This is Jimmy Mack in Falmouth, Massachusetts, and this is the Howie Carr Show.
Grace, what was the donkey's name?
The donkey's name
Yes.
was Eddie.
Eddie?
Eddie. He's a Scottish donkey. Okay, now enough of the silliness, Howie. We have real stories to get to. These two winners, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but they're pretty good. First up, woman in her underwear forces plane to divert from Texas to Alabama. A boozed up woman stripped off her pants on a flight to Texas and took a swing at a flight attendant, forcing the plane to be diverted to Alabama.
Please tell me she was wearing a face covering.
Sweet Home Alabama.
It's funny you should ask that, Taylor, because it says she was drunk and threw up on herself aboard the Houston-bound commuter air flight. So if she was wearing a mask, it probably got messy. So the throw up prompted her to take off her pants. And then she started fighting with a lot of people on the plane. Sometimes these stories make me feel sad because I'm so embarrassed for the people. And I'm sure alcohol was the major part of that. But this is the story, Howie, that I want to give enough time to. Woman posing as FBI agent sought free fast food. This is out of Georgia. Police have jailed a woman in Georgia accused of pretending to be an FBI agent to score a free fast food meal, saying she allegedly threatened to arrest restaurant workers if they didn't serve her a complimentary bite. This happened in Dallas at a Chick-fil-A. Kimberly Ragsdale was charged Thursday for impersonating a public officer. She showed up at the location multiple times during the week while driving a white minivan and threatened to take employees into custody if they didn't comply. If this had not been a woman, Howie, I would have thought this was you. This is a scheme you could have pulled.
Imagine what she would have done.
I would never have pretend. I have more pride than to pretend to be an FBI agent. I would have pretended to be a local cop. I would have pretended to be Inspector Carr.
Like, what do you say, though, as your reasoning for being there? Like, I'm taste testing as the FBI? You know what I mean?
I'm on a stakeout. Come on.
Now give me some chicken.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Thank you, Grace.
Thanks, Howie.
We'll be right back. I'm Howie Carr. It's never too early to start gift shopping for the holidays, especially because today you can save big on a gift they'll use every day. Raycon wireless earbuds. My Raycon wireless earbuds have allowed me to work from home more easily, take my workout outdoors with an awesome playlist, and listen to whatever I want to without disturbing anyone around me. With seamless Bluetooth pairing and a comfortable noise-isolating fit, you can start listening right away and keep listening for hours. And the audio quality is amazing. So this holiday season, get them something they can use for calls or music, for work or play, at home or on the go, or just pick up a pair for yourself. Trust me, you're going to use them every day. Go to buyraycon.com/Howie today to get 20% off your Raycon order. But hurry, this offer is available for a limited time only, and you don't want to miss it. That's buyraycon.com/Howie for 20% off your Raycons. Buyraycon.com/Howie.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
Can you remember any time in your life when you were starstruck?
One time I saw Peter Vesey, the NBA columnist for the New York Post. He was in the Herald sports department. I really liked his column, so I went up and introduced myself to him. Then one time there was Cousin Brucey from WABC, and I used to listen to him driving back and forth between Chapel Hill and Deerfield when I was in college. Everybody on the East Coast listened to him. I couldn't believe that I was in the presence of Cousin Brucey.
Do you ever play bridge anymore?
No, I haven't played bridge in a very long time. Nobody I know plays bridge. I think my bridge days are behind me.
Do you think you'd still be good at it?
I'm not a great bidder, but I know how to count cards. That to me is the essence of playing a hand of bridge, is to be able to count cards.
What is a rhino?
Rhino is a Republican in name only. Think Paul Ryan. Oh, think Mitt Romney. Think Jeff Flake.
Jim Acosta, without a doubt, wins the competition for Trump's least favorite journalist of all time. Let's listen to some of their feistier moments.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Should I let him have a little bit more? What do you think, Peter? Peter, should I let him have a little bit more? Sit down. I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that undermine?
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you?
When I raise money, excuse me, I've watched you on television. You're a real beauty. Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, what do you say to your critics who say that you're concocting a national emergency here in order to get your wall because you couldn't get it through other ways?
What do you think? You think I'm creating something? Ask these incredible women who lost their daughters and their sons, because your question is a very political question, because you have an agenda. You're CNN. You're fake news.
You're listening to the Howie Carr Show.
Now's the perfect time to get a pair of premium wireless earbuds, and Raycon is the way to go. Raycon start at about half the price of other premium brands on the market, and they sound just as amazing. And Raycon's everyday E25 earbuds are their best model yet. You get 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a more compact design that gives you a comfortable, noise-isolating fit. Perfect for conference calls, video chats, or binging podcasts. Raycon was founded by Ray J, and celebrities like Cardi B and J.R. Smith have already given Raycons their seal of approval. I love my Raycons, and Grace loves hers, too.
Howie, I love my Raycons. Best birthday gift ever.
I listen to much better music than she does, though.
Hey, that's not true.
Now it's your turn to see what the hype is all about. Go to buyraycon.com/Howie. That's buyraycon.com/Howie. buyraycon.com/Howie.
And now, an interview with the Emperor of Hate, Howie Carr.
Who do you consider the biggest rhino in the Republican Party?
Probably is Paul Ryan. I wish a Republican were still the speaker, but Paul Ryan was scarcely a Republican. And there was a reason he was Mitt Romney's running mate, because we had a rhino ticket in 2012.
Where did the expression, "How many more, Mr. Speaker? How many more?" come from?
That comes from the State House. There used to be a state rep who sometimes would talk about atrocities that were happening in crime. And he would get up there and he would say, "How many more, Mr. Speaker? How many more?" And I just picked it up and it became a trademark.
Where's your favorite place to go out to eat in Palm Beach?
My favorite place to go in Palm Beach is probably the Honor Bar, which used to be O-Bar, and you can get a really great hamburger there, and they have a great coffee machine that brews each cup of coffee individually.
He is the youngest senator that is going to be running. In his video, he also mentioned he's the only senator that lives in the inner city, and he's an unmarried vegan. So a lot of very unique qualities Cory Booker brings to the table, Kate.
Now, I appreciate the comments of my colleagues. This is about the closest I'll probably ever have in my life to an I am Spartacus moment. I am Spartacus. I am Spartacus.
Joey, do you like movies about gladiators?
Have you ever had an LGBTQ law clerk?
I've not been a judge, so I don't have any law clerks.
Someone working for you.
I'm to be honest, I don't know the sexual orientation of my staff.
When Dick Durbin called me, I had tears of rage when I heard about this experience in that meeting. And for you not to feel that hurt, tears of rage.
Would you just stop being so dramatic?
I'm a big believer that if this country hasn't broken your heart, then you don't love her enough.
You're listening to the Howie Carr Show.
Thank you, New England, for supporting Music Drives Us.
Since 2006, we have used the power of music to benefit communities throughout the 6 states of New England. During this time, we've proudly supported more than 200 schools and donated upwards of 1,000 instruments. And this year, we're getting ready to donate all over again. Our work is made possible through your continued support of our musical mission. Whether you donated, volunteered at our events, attended our concerts, or engaged with us on social media, thank you. We hope you'll stay tuned with what we have in store for this year, because it'll be our best year yet. Visit us at musicdrivesus.org. That's musicdrivesus.org. Or follow us at Music Drives Us on social. Together, we can keep music in our schools.
Here's how it works with my retirement accounts, and I'll bet yours too. If your 401k, your SEP, your IRA, whatever, is going up, you probably don't think very much about it, right? But if it's going down, well, there's nothing much else you can think of. So for the last couple of years, none of us have been worrying much about those quarterly statements. But lately, it's gotten a little worrisome. It's not that bad, not yet anyway, but what goes up must come down. Now is the time to start thinking about adjusting your investments. Gold and silver have always been a hedge against stock market volatility. Uncertainty about the future has traditionally meant rising prices for precious metals. Orion Metal Exchange is the only precious metals company I trust. Give Orion a call to get a free, no-obligation investment guide about protecting your future with an enduring investment in gold and silver. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, including peace of mind, by calling Orion Metal Exchange now. Call them today at 800-912-2300. And with Orion, you'll get more metal for your money. Call 800-912-2300. That's 800-912-2300. I've seen a lot of Anchor cupcakes in my day. Here are some of the latest network nitwits.
And he says, if I'm elected president, I will push for a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on all members of Congress. Correct me, there already are term limits, so what does he mean?
And what are we hearing in the background? Is that shelling?
No, Katie, you're actually hearing that from here in Jerusalem, and it's actually fireworks going off right behind me.
We're in our tribes, we're in our corners most of our lives. I think we just heard some gunshots. Should we listen to that for a second? Control room? Is that not gunshots? Okay.
Ivanka is not the second lady. She is actually, I don't think she deserves this position. She's actually a senior advisor to the president. So the idea that he would demean her specifically.
Better strap yourself in. It's time for the Howie Carr Show.
CNN has a major projection to announce, and that is Joe Biden will win Arizona. He is the winner of 11 electoral votes in Arizona. Look at the votes, a little over 11,000 margin, 49.4 to 49.1.
This ain't over. This ain't over by a long shot.
It was rigged, and I demand a recount.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
This week, 82 years ago, Kristallnacht happened. It was the Nazis' warning shot across the bow of our human civilization. After 4 years of a modern-day assault on those same values by Donald Trump, the Biden-Harris team pledges a return to norms, including the truth.
Well, what a terrible thing to say. How could you think that?
This is CNN. Who's your captain? Howie Carr.
This is a great day for our country. We get to take our democracy back.
What do you say to those who are criticizing you, where less than a week ago, you went out and stood before a massive crowd who was celebrating Joe Biden's victory, and now you're saying your city has to shut down? How do you have one and not the other?
There are times when we actually do need to have a relief and come together, and I felt like that was one of those times. That crowd was gathered whether I was there or not.
Objection! These remarks are profane and irrelevant.
Unchained and unstoppable.
President Trump believes he will be President Trump, have a second term.
It would look pretty bad if he did not attend the inauguration. It would look like sour grapes, wouldn't it?
I think the president will attend his own inauguration. He would have to be there, in fact.
Rump swabs, hacks, and moonbats beware. It's Howie Carr.
844-500-4242. That is the toll-free number of the Howie Carr Show. This hour, we're going to do some local stuff. We're going to go over the latest obnoxious comments of Governor Charlie Parker. And the governor of Vermont has also apparently gone around the bend too. We're going to tighten the screws, Phil Scott says. Last week he voted for Biden. This week he's going to tighten the screws. And the ironic part of this is that I think we mentioned yesterday, I know I mentioned it in my column today, Vermont has the lowest death rate in the nation. The lowest death rate in the nation. They've had 59 deaths from this thing in 9 months. And yet now all the bars are going to be shut down. Multi-household gatherings are banned. So I guess this is even more draconian than Gavin Newsom in California. That he said you couldn't have more than 3 households. This guy's saying nobody. And for what? Because the surge is exploding and coming to our doorstep, but nobody's dead. So what does that mean? 844-500-4242. Restaurants will have to close at 10 p.m. All recreational sports except, quote, school-sponsored sports activities will be suspended. And listen to this one. College students returning home will have to quarantine for a minimum of 7 days. Yeah, right. Right. So if you're in Vermont and you go to college in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, you have to sit at your house for a week when you get back. I don't think that's going to work out very well. Anyway, before we get to the COVID panic updates, I wanted to mention the passing of Howie Winter, the former boss, the legendary boss of the old Winter Hill gang in Somerville. And he was 91 years old. He lived in Millbury with his wife, Ellen, and he died. He had a heart attack last night. And he was a friend of the show. And I like the guy. I understand people are saying, well, how can you say he was a good guy? Hey, look, I know him, the way I knew him, and he was a decent guy to me. He was a decent guy to Grace.
He really was. He was very sweet, and he was funny, and he was just, we knew him when he was an older guy, and he was just a nice guy. I know people are going to now say the same thing to me, Howie, but I don't care. He was nice to me.
Yeah, I know. He was. And
Ellen was very nice to me as well. She's a lovely lady.
And we've got one of the podcasts that we did last year for Dirty Rats was about Ellen and Howie. And where can people get that, Grace, to listen to it if they want to this weekend?
Well, you can get it wherever you get your podcast if you type in Dirty Rats, but you can also go to howiecarr.com and click on the podcast there. And I just want to say that a lot of times with people, you can really tell when a couple is in love, and she loved him so much. It was just obvious when she talked about him. So my heart goes out to Ellen. I'm sure she's having a tough time right now.
Yeah, she is. And if you after you listen to that podcast about Howie Winter and Ellen, and you want to buy the books, we've got an end of an era special because it is the end of an era for the Winter Hill Gang. And go to howiecarrshow.com and click on store. And we're selling Rat Man. That's the story about the Whitey Bulger trial. And Plug Uglies, which is the story of just a sort of a coffee table book about organized crime in Boston for $14.95. So it's a good deal. And howiecarrshow.com, click on store. And you can get that special deal, the end of an era special. And we in February, I sat down with Howie in the studio, and we talked for an hour and a half, and he kind of opened up a little bit about some of the stuff he had done and some of the old days with the Irish gang war. He went through. He always said, "I was in 2 wars. I was in World War II," and he joined when he was 14. He was born in 1929, St. Patrick's Day. And then he said, after World War II, I was a businessman, and he worked with Buddy McLean. They had trucks and everything. They were on the docks and, in Charlestown. And then he said, then I got into the Irish gang war, the gang war with the McLaughlins in Charlestown, which was probably the biggest Irish gang in the country at the time. And the Winter Hill gang, which was 3 guys, basically, Buddy McLean, Joe McDonald, and Howie Winter. They wiped out the McLaughlins over time. And so, with all the COVID and the election and everything, we never cut up the tape or anything, but Taylor went through some of the stuff today, and this is just some stuff that we've never played before from Howie Winter. And I never could have played some of this. One of these cuts, at least, I could never have played while he was alive because he, unlike Johnny Materano, who I wrote Hitman with. Johnny pleaded guilty to all these murders, so he could talk about them openly. Whereas, Howie couldn't say what had really happened to it. He could say some things about what happened, like about hijacking a truck or something like that, or beating somebody up, but he couldn't say anything about, the ultimate crime, which is murder. So let's start out with this is Howie Winter talking about Wimpy Bennett. Wimpy Bennett was another famous gangster. He was involved in the Brinks job, at least laundering money, and he was the biggest gangster in Roxbury. And he was eventually killed by Stevie Flemmi and Frank Salemi. And Salemi's doing life now for killing another gangster. So's Flemmi is doing life. And Flemmi actually tried to blow up Howie's car at the beginning of the Irish gang wars, and then they flipped over and became allies. But anyway, this is Howie Winter on the death of Wimpy Bennett, cut 10.
So that Wimpy comes here, and Frankie Salemi and Stevie Flemmi, they drop in once in a while. So then he tells me that they're there, Wimpy Bennett, Frankie, and Stevie. All of a sudden, they put a bullet in the back of his head, right there with him sitting there.
It's just the way it was, Wimpy trained Stevie to run the rackets, and then Stevie said, "Hey, you know what? Why don't I run the rackets?" And so he brings in his buddy Salemi, and they kill Wimpy. And then the McLaughlins, that was the Charlestown gang that they were fighting, the Winter Hill group, and the Charlestown, there was the McLaughlins, the McLaughlin brothers. But the toughest guys in the McLaughlin group were these two brothers called the Hughes brothers, Connie Hughes and Steve Hughes. Stevie Hughes is the guy who ended up killing Buddy McLean. But this is how they caught up with Connie. I think it's Connie that they caught up with here. This is a cut 11.
Who do you think we pulled up right behind? Sammy and Stevie Hughes, the car in front of us. So they go down, I think it was 114.
Oh, this is Stevie.
They go down, pulled up alongside of them, and emptied a rifle into them, killed both of them and the dogs, thank God. He had a couple of dogs with him. They got out alive.
Yeah, this was Stevie Hughes, and he was like the bodyguard for a guy named Sammy Lindenbaum, who was like a money guy, a loan shark, and they were going to Lawrence, and they caught up with him, and they had the two dogs in the back seat, and they shot the car full of holes, and the car went off 114. That's days before 114 was a well-developed road like it is now, and it went into a ditch, and Hughes and Lindenbaum were dead, and the dogs just scampered out and just were playing around. So this is Howie Winter on Zip Connolly, the crooked FBI agent, and how he met him through a famous guy that we've been talking about in the run up to the election, a guy who's, I'll give you a hint, number 4, cut 12.
I was friendly with all the Bruins, and Bobby Orr invited me to the victory party when they won the Stanley Cup. So I went in and said hi to most of the guys, and Bobby Orr was with Conley. And he introduced me to him. And he told him he's just an FBI agent, Conley. And I shook his hand, and said, "Pleased to meet you, That was the only time I ever met with him. Then we heard Whitey said, this guy's, I'm meeting with him, but he's giving me information, and I'm paying for an apartment for him, and I'm giving him money. So in other words, he was covering his ass. If someone saw him with Conley, he let us know that Conley was giving him information. He wasn't giving Conley information.
And Whitey went to Howie Winter when he was losing the gang war over in South Boston, and we went to Materano, and he begged Materano and Howie Winter to save his rear end because he was on the losing end of the fight. And then, like a few years later, he's ratting them out to the FBI. But that was Whitey Bulger for you. 844-500-4242. I'm going to go over some more of that stuff this weekend and see what we can get out of it. It's pretty interesting stuff. He was a very interesting guy, and he was to all of us at the Howie Carr Show Network. He was really a good guy and a nice fella. He was also in prison for a while with the Joe Pesci character in The Irishman. His name was Russell Buffalino. There's they were all in the same can. There's a picture of them all together at a Jewish holiday. They all had to become Jewish for a day to get outside and have a big feast. So they're all wearing yarmulkes, all these Italian and Irish gangsters. Anyway, 844-500-4242. And we'll be back in just a moment. It's Charlie Parker's birthday, and we're gonna observe his birthday by playing some of his cuts and take your messages. 844-500-4242. I'm Howie Carr.
A nightmare to liberals everywhere. He's Howie Carr.
The 2020 elections have the potential to shape the next decade financially. That's especially true if you're within 10 years of retirement. Is your plan ready? Find out with a portfolio stress test from Kevin Frisbee at Frisbee & Associates. Call 800-989-9100 for your no-cost, no-obligation analysis. Kevin can help uncover any hidden fees that may be lurking in your plan. The team at Frisbee & Associates are up to date on all the latest rules and regulations from what the Secure Act is and isn't to Social Security and Medicare. Let Kevin and the team give you peace of mind as you get near retirement. Make sure your plan is ready for whatever happens come November. It starts with a phone call to Frisbee & Associates, 800-989-9100. And be sure to catch Kevin on the Howie Carr radio program every Thursday at 3:50 as he reviews the market. Call Kevin now at 800-989-9100. 800-989-9100.
Cory Booker said it best.
There are definitely moments where you listen to Joe Biden and you just wonder.
Here's stumbling and mumbling Joe Biden.
David Duke, the former leader of the KKK.
The Ku Klux Klan is the Ku Klux Klan.
8 more years of Donald Trump will change America in a fundamental way.
And if Donald Trump is reelected,
Freudian slip, and the demagogues around the world.
We also have a mechanism to control drug prices. Folks at the folks at Health and the Health Department in the United States, HHS.
It would put 720 million women back in the workforce.
I never ever thought that I'd see what I saw in Charlotte.
Would you or would you not rejoin the TPP? Yes or no?
I would not rejoin the TTP. Well, they're going out and getting G5 and going to dominate. I mean, what do we? Bills that the future president here, that the senator is talking about.
Hair loss is not one of life's more enjoyable experiences. If you're looking to fill in your hairline or reverse years of hair loss, DiStefano Hair Restoration will create a result that will be a transformative experience. The result of my IGT procedure was quite remarkable. I now have fuller, thicker hair so I can even wear it a bit longer. There are a few major decisions. Grace,
yeah, what's up?
What's this Whopper? She says number 18 must play. This is a Whopper. What is it? Just so I can set it up a little bit more.
She says
and dreaded seeing my ever increasing.
She says you won't be disappointed.
I'm sure I won't. I just wanted to know if I should give somebody a hint on what it is exactly. Those were good cuts, by the way. Thank you for getting them.
Sure.
Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy listening to it?
I didn't give it a whole listen. I just skimmed through it. I was devoting most of my time to today.
He's our president, and I would rather he not be taking something that has not been approved, especially in his age group and in his, shall we say, weight group, what is morbidly obese, they say. So completely inappropriate in so many ways that it's almost a given. It's like a child who comes in with mud on their pants or something. That's the way it is. They're outside playing. That's what it. He comes in with doggy do on his shoes, and everybody who works with him has that on their shoes too. But I only will do that if you tell me that this legislation is worthy of George Kirby's name. This moment of national anguish.
This is Chris in Rochester, Mass.
This is Mark in Nashville, New Hampshire.
This is Lorna in Tuxtown, Pennsylvania. And this is the Howie Carr Show.
Today's poll question is brought to you by the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier. Eden Pure is continuing their buy one, get one sale. Eliminate pet, smoke, and basement smells for good. My listeners love the Thunderstorm. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word Howie BOGO. There it is. It's a beautiful thing, and it's great. It's a great product. Taylor, what's the poll question? What are the results thus far?
Should landlords still be allowed to evict non-paying tenants?
Yes, they should be.
90% say yes.
All right. 844-500-4242. Let's see. I'm getting criticized for saying good things about Howie. You criticized Dirtbag Whitey Bulger and mourn Dirtbag Winter just because he gave you some good stories. I like your show, but that's lame. That's from 603. 413. H, I can't believe how much you hated Bulger, and yet here you are memorializing a POS who was no different at all than Whitey. Sad. He's, believe me, he's a very different guy than Whitey Bulger. I mean, you know, you could say they were in the same line of work, sort of, but Howie was a very different person than Whitey Bulger. There's no question about that. 844-500-4242. So anyway, today was Charlie Parker's birthday, and it was the day after the grim milestone of 10,000 deaths in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Well, Vermont is 50th in the rate of deaths, 9 per 100,000. Massachusetts, as you know, is from reading my column or just looking at the stats yourself, is third in deaths per 100,000 population. 148 deaths per 100,000 population. So they're they about 15 times more deaths than in Vermont. But Charlie Parker is cracking down some more, and Grace says I must start with cut 18 because it's a classic Charlie.
Before we go to cut 18, if it really is Charlie Parker's birthday, we should play a song for him, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we should play the intro first of all. Let's play the intro first of all, and that'll give us.
That's what I was getting.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to play.
You're enjoying your day, everything's going your way. Then along comes Charlie Parker, always there to tell you about a new disease, a car accident or killer bees. We beg her to spare you, Charlie, please, but you can't stop Charlie Parker.
Don't even think about socializing. That's his favorite new word, socializing. That's as I told Robert Walker last night, the restaurant and hotel owner, the synonym for socialize is have fun. Don't even think about it. Okay, cut 18.
We didn't put that stay-at-home advisory in place without thinking real hard about it. We did it to send a message that if people want to have the kind of holiday season, a safe holiday season, one where businesses are open and available to have people who work there and people shop there, where supervised, organized, inspected recreational and entertainment venues are available, where our hospital system is actually managing a load that they can carry. People need to think real hard about the role they can play as individuals in helping us work our way through this.
You see, we all have a role to play. Your role, as Dr. Fauci said earlier in the day, my role, everyone's role who's listening to this, our role is to follow orders. Follow the orders of our betters. The people like Charlie Parker, his role is to tell us what to do and to punish us if we do not comply with his orders. let us some going out. Here he is going after youth hockey again. I don't know what the problem is here with hockey. He's tall. Did he have a problem with skates because he's so tall? I don't think most tall people can skate, just like shorter people, but maybe not. 15.
And if you need another example, let's talk about youth hockey.
Oh, again.
It wasn't so much the actual act of playing youth hockey that created the very significant cluster
Socializing
across New England that came out of this. It was the 12 hours or 14 hours that adults and kids were spending at a rink playing in round-robin tournaments where the kids were spending far more time horsing around with each other.
Horsing around. I'm Howie
Something
Carr.
amazing happens when you reach a ripe old age like we here at Matthews Brothers have. People make up multisyllabic.
You can open up the
hard-to-pronounce
lines.
words to describe you. Words like sesquicentenarian. More amazing yet, some people even try to sing it.
Matthews Brothers is a sesquicentenarian.
That means we're really old.
But we're still flexing.
We've got a website. It's wicked awesome.
We're on the Facebook.
Just like your Grammy.
Won't you please friend us?
We also tweet.
Look for our stuff at
Better Lumberyard.
Or at Window Pros.
And remember,
Matthews has just one T.
Even after 166 years of making wicked awesome windows and doors, we're still setting records. And for that, we say thank you.
Matthews Brothers, Matthews Brothers, Matthews with one G. America's oldest window manufacturer.
This is going to sound immodest, but I'm obviously a top-tier candidate. I've had a lot of titles over my career, and certainly vice president will be great. But Mamala will always be the one that means the most. They said, well, do you think Trump is responsible for what happened? And I said, well, look, I mean, obviously he didn't pull the trigger, but he's certainly been tweeting out the ammunition. And that's why do gotta go. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories. You know, I'm just gonna gauge your real talk. I don't want to waste your time with anything else.
What is your favorite musical genre?
Oh, I mean, I'm hip hop.
Taylor.
And reggae and jazz.
Taylor. Air purification system all week long. Eden Pure is able to do this due to the huge success from the Howie Carr Show listeners. The response has been tremendous, and Eden Pure is passing on those savings to the listeners. The Thunderstorm is a small device you can hold in your hand and plug into the wall. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm works like a real thunderstorm. It quietly sends out super oxygen and ions to kill odors in your room. Over the weekend, I saw my daughter Carolyn, and she asked if she could have one for her basement in her new home. She asked if it really works, and I said, of course it does. You won't believe it. If you bought one for your home and enjoy the big difference in smell, take advantage of the BOGO offer now and buy one for a family member like I'm going to do for Carolyn. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word HowieBOGO. That's EdenPure.com. And with code word HowieBOGO, shipping is free.
Jim Acosta, without a doubt, wins the competition for Trump's least favorite journalist of all time. Let's listen to some of their feistier moments.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Should I let him have a little bit more? What do you think, Peter? Peter, should I let him have a little bit more? Sit down. I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that undermine?
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you?
When I raise
raising
money,
for
excuse me, I've watched you on television. You're a real beauty.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings
Let
would
me
be
ask,
much better.
if I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask
Peter,
one
go
other
ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's
Mr.
enough.
President, what do you say to your critics who say that you're concocting a national emergency here in order to get your wall because
I
you
asked
couldn't
the
get it through other
angel
ways?
moms, what do you think? You think I'm creating something? Ask these incredible women who lost their daughters and their sons, because your question is a very political question, because you have an agenda. You're CNN. You're fake news.
They're outlandish, they're outrageous, and they're hypocrites. They're the women of The View.
Bernie was so menschy in that moment, like a real guy. I actually am aroused by him.
Timothy McVeigh was a Christian. Just saying.
Hitler was a Christian.
Well, he didn't like the Catholics.
Trump needs to be medicated and hospitalized at this point, or he is going to just kill all of us.
I mean, do we have to wait till the hammer and sickle is on the American flag before we stand up to this guy?
Joy, you've worn blackface.
I did not go in blackface, please.
No, she was not in blackface.
Thank you.
It was a Halloween party. I went as a beautiful African woman. Did you have tanning lotion on? A little. I had makeup that was a little bit darker than my skin.
I'm hoping Dr. Jill becomes a Surgeon General. She's a hell of a doctor.
Whoopi, you said that Roman Polanski, it wasn't rape.
I know it wasn't rape.
Child molest, maybe? I'm not
I think
sure
it
what
was
child
something.
molest.
It was something else, but I don't believe it was rape.
Oh, no!
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
603 says, I heard your podcast on Howie Winter. He and Whitey were like oil and water. Yeah, Howie was a gangster, but at least he had love for his country, his people, his wife. Whitey can't check any of those boxes. Thank you, 603. You said it better than I was explaining it, but that's it in a nutshell. Whitey was just the absolute most loathsome creature you've ever seen, you've ever run into. He had no loyalty to anybody but himself. And Howie went to prison and kept his mouth shut. He was a stand-up guy. 844-500-4242. So horsing around yesterday or 2 days ago was socializing at the hockey round robin tournaments. Now it's horsing around. Have you ever horsed around? We've got to put an end to this horsing around. Again, I'm gonna just raise this question again. If Charlie Parker had run for governor, he's run 3 times, won 2, lost once. If he had run the first time and said, I'm going to put an end to horsing around Massachusetts, how many votes do you think he would have gotten? And remember when they said when he was running in 2018 against the Reverend Scott Lively, remember him? He was the guy, he was fed up with Parker. I actually voted for him in the primary, and I don't mind saying I did. And they kept saying, oh, he's a religious fanatic. Scott Lively was a damn Unitarian Universalist, compared to Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker is a fire and brimstone fundamentalist on the issue of COVID-19. If you don't obey the Lord, which is him, you're going to hell. You're going to spend eternity in fire and damnation, roasting on a spit in hell if you have more than 8 or 10 people over for Thanksgiving. 844-500-4242. These people. And again, if you want to hear the Howie Winter podcast, you can get it wherever you get your Howie Carr Show podcast. It's in the Dirty Rats. And are there any other places they can get it, Taylor, or is that the best place to go? Just to wherever you get your podcast?
Wherever. If you're a Howie Carr Show listener on your podcast platform, you can find Dirty Rats on there. So it's the last episode. Certainly give all of them a listen, but the last one really completes it. You can also go on to howiecarrshow.com if you don't use any podcast apps, and we have all the podcasts listed there. Just click the podcast link.
Right, and if you're interested afterwards, just get the end of an era special with the 2 books, Rat Man, about the Whitey Bulger trial. If you want to see what a real bastard does, it was all spelled out in the trial, and also Plug Uglies, which is kind of a coffee table book of organized crime, hundreds of mug shots and old police reports. It's good stuff.
And as Howie mentioned, we did Howie interviewed Howie in February, and it's an 1.5-hour interview. So Howie's going to listen to it this weekend, as are we, and we're going to come up with something special to commemorate Howie's life.
Yeah. Again, it's pretty interesting stuff. It's a time that's not coming back. And it'll be something. It'll be something pretty good, I think. All right, let's take some calls here, and we've got more. Let's play one more Charlie Baker cut, and then we'll go to the phone lines. Here's he comes up with some bad news. This is not his last lecture before Thanksgiving. Cut 17.
And you're probably going to hear this 3 or 4 times from me between now and Thanksgiving.
3 or 4 times.
Because if you look at what happened in Canada, and their Thanksgiving was in October, 2 weeks later, their numbers spiked for exactly the same reason. Later,
you know, when you run for re-election, Charlie Parker, I'll tell you what's going to happen to you in the Republican primary. Arthur, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Arthur.
Hi, Howie. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
Well, I heard something this morning, what Jeff Kuna said, that at one time when you were up involved up there with the crew from up in, well, it wasn't Medford at the time, but Nancy Shack, her husband, Brittany, you, and Kuna went down to qualify at the range, and they said you couldn't even hit the target. It was a toss-up between you and Kuna, who was worse. Is that true?
I don't think so. That's not my recollection of it, Arthur.
I'll listen. Howie and I went to the range earlier this year, and he was a crack shot.
I got advice from some guys in Somerville, Arthur, on how to shoot. They said don't listen to Joe Biden when he talks about shooting for the leg or the shoulder. Just go for the body. No, that was BS. Thanks for the call though, Arthur. 413. The biggest BS from Parker is what he says as we work through this, because he has no intention of ever being through with anything. Exactly. You're right. I mean, 9 months ago almost now, he said we needed 15 days to flatten the curve. And here we are all this time later. And you can't get a drink anywhere in the state, a mixed drink anywhere in the state after 9:30 at night, because the COVID is going to attack you. Does that make any sense? It doesn't. It's ridiculous. 844-500-4242. But you can go to Rhode Island and you can get a drink until 10:30 tonight, because the COVID in Rhode Island doesn't attack as early as the COVID in Massachusetts. And now we find out from Governor Phil Scott in Vermont that the COVID in Vermont doesn't attack you until 10 o'clock. I wish they could get everything straightened out. I mean, we could have like the COVID armies would only attack. Why is it 9:30 in Massachusetts, 10 o'clock in Vermont, 10:30 in Rhode Island?
Howie, what happens if you cross a time zone?
I know. I don't understand it. What about when you go over to one of those maritime provinces in Canada with Atlantic time? What if the COVID goes over there? You're right. What happens? I don't understand it. Mr. Garcia, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
Hello, how you doing, Howie Carr? Listen, I want to ask you a question. Donald Trump had 44% winning, not winning in New York, but he's getting the high 44%. It's a long time. No, any president get 40 or plus in New York.
I know.
He's getting 45%. More the last time was Papa Bush. Then he won in New York by. No, he lost in New
Mr.
York.
Garcia, they lost congressional seats in New York, the Democrats. They lost a ton of legislative seats, the Assembly and the State Senate, and yet he got smoked. Hey, Mr. Garcia, I got to ask you about did you see that your governor, Phil Murphy, has joined with the nitwit governors of New England to shut down youth hockey? Did you see that? Aren't you proud?
Yeah. No. Let me tell you something. The supermarket in Newark is going to close at 8 o'clock p.m.
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
So again, so then you've got a more powerful COVID virus. Your virus attacks at 8 o'clock. In Massachusetts, it's 9:30.
Why you not going open 9, 10 o'clock? Why you spending all the time? Because now everybody says, I have to hurry up. I have to go 8 o'clock. You're going to be more packed. You're going to be more packed.
And so people get panicked too. That's when they're going to start buying up all the toilet paper and all the paper towels, right? Because they're going to get scared.
Also, if you spend that to midnight, 1 o'clock, people go there. You know, at 12 or 1 o'clock, heavy people go shopping because nobody want to see heavy people shopping, spending 4 or 5 cars.
Is there going to be a special dispensation for hairy people that they can come out later? Thanks for the call, Mr. Garcia. Luann, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Luann.
Oh, hi, Howie.
Hi.
Hi, I'm calling to tell you my new nickname for Charlie Baker, Pass the Buck Chuck. He just continues to, now he's blaming Donald Trump for the nursing home.
Right.
Fatalities. He continually does this, and I can't stand it, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, but that's my name for Charlie Baker, Pass the Buck Chuck.
That is a good nickname for him, Luann. Pass the buck, Chuck, because he is passing the buck. He said the other day that President Trump owns this. 65% of the 10,000 dead died in nursing homes that he was supposed to be regulating and taking care of. And yet somehow Trump owns everything. Now, here's another big fat lie from Charlie Parker. Cut 20.
And I know that people are tired of dealing with COVID. Believe me, the Lieutenant Governor and I shake our heads over how much time we continue to spend on this issue. And the vast majority of people in Massachusetts, the vast majority of the time, are doing the right things. And it has made a difference. Just look at the trajectory of cases back in the spring and look at the trajectory now. It's really different. But the trajectory now is sustained and troubling. And everybody needs to step up and help ensure that we get our arms around this.
How many lies was that? He said he was tired of COVID. He's obviously not tired. He's reveling in COVID. And then he says we're doing the right. We've turned the trajectory around. And then in the next sentence, he says we haven't turned the trajectory around. So which is it, Charlie Parker? Are we doing the right thing, or are we horsing around? Cut 14.
And it has made a big difference with respect to especially hospitalizations, but everybody has to play. And in those small moments, in those small groups, in those most familiar settings, people need to recognize and understand that the role they play here is an important one.
Is your son gropey, keeping his hands to himself? Is that how has he learned to play with others while they're asleep? And he's had a couple of drinks of wine on his way back from D.C.? Cut 21.
But people need to understand that the time is now.
The time is now.
This is real. And the more people do to take care of the business of battling COVID, not just when they're doing formal things, but when they're doing all those informal things too, the more likely we are as a Commonwealth to weather what is obviously a really significant growth in cases, hospitalizations, and all of the calamity that comes with that. And I really do hope that people take this message to heart, because we can do a lot of things, and we will. But in the end, we need everybody to play.
Play with this, Charlie Parker. Really significant growth. I thought he said that didn't he say a couple of cuts earlier we had everything under control and we'd done a really great job. Now he's talking about the really significant growth, and everybody's got to play. That means, again, play means you have to obey his orders.
Certainly doesn't pertain to youth hockey.
All right, we'll take a break and we'll come back and take some more calls. I'm Howie Carr.
He's suave, he's debonair, he's Howie Carr.
This hour of the Howie Carr Show is brought to you in part by the Villa in Wayland, celebrating over 70 years in business. From my favorite, veal parm, to their seafood dinners, the Villa has all your home-cooked favorites. Who loves you, baby? The Villa, that's who. Do you have no water, poor water quality, or low pressure? This is Howie Carr. Call the water experts serving Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Skillings & Sons. They're ready with 24-hour service and a fleet of trucks stocked with parts to make sure you're not without water. With over 50 years of experience, they take pride in having a family of employees that are the best in the business. For all things water, Skillings & Sons is there for you. skillingsandsons.com.
Alexander Hamilton said, "Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything." This is Toby from Cape Gunworks. When our founding fathers drafted the Second Amendment, there was no question of its meaning. Today, if you have questions, come to Cape Gunworks for some advice, training, or to send a few rounds downrange. We have a fully stocked pro shop with a huge selection of guns, crossbows, archery, classes, rentals, 15-lane range, and a friendly staff. Come on down to Cape Gunworks, Airport Road, Hyannis, or capegunworks.com.
Whether it's global warming, global cooling, or climate change, one thing's for certain, the progressive moonbats can't stop talking about it.
We're talking about cities all over the world, major cities going underwater.
You know, I've spent a lot of time now with these young students, and they're scared. And a lot of young people are even suffering from, they're calling it extinction illness.
So that we can have people here who truly are committed to climate change, believe in climate change as though it's a religion, it's not a science.
A woman whose dreams of motherhood now taste bittersweet because of what I know about our children's future.
You have stolen my
Taylor.
dreams, my childhood, with your empty words.
Taylor, can you just
Yes,
pull up?
yes, what?
Can you just pull out? Your IRA, whatever, is going up, you probably don't think very much about it, right? But if it's going down, well, there's nothing much else you can think of. So for the last couple of years, none of us have been worrying
And it
much
has
about
made
those
a
quarterly
big
statements.
play
But
here.
lately, it's gotten a little worrisome. It's not that bad, not yet anyway, but what goes up must come down. Now is the time to start thinking about adjusting your investments. Gold and silver have always been a hedge against stock market volatility. Uncertainty about the future has traditionally meant rising prices for precious metals. Orion Metal Exchange is the only precious metals company I trust. Give Orion a call to get a free, no-obligation investment guide about protecting your future with an enduring investment in gold and silver. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, including peace of mind, by calling Orion Metal Exchange now. Call them today at 800-912-2300. And with Orion, you'll get more metal for your money. Call 800-912-2300. That's 800-912-2300.
He is the youngest senator that is going to be running. In his video, he also mentioned he's the only senator that lives in the inner city, and he's an unmarried vegan. So a lot of very unique qualities Cory Booker brings to the table, Kate.
Now, I appreciate the comments of my colleagues. This is about the closest I'll probably ever have in my life to an I am Spartacus moment. I am Spartacus. I am Spartacus.
Joey, you like movies about gladiators?
Have you ever had an LGBTQ law clerk?
I've not been a judge, so I don't have any law clerks.
Someone working for you.
I'm to be honest, I don't know the sexual orientation of my staff.
When Dick Durbin called me, I had tears of rage when I heard about this experience in that meeting. And for you not to feel that hurt, tears of rage, tears of rage.
Would you just stop being so dramatic?
I'm a big believer that if this country hasn't broken your heart, then you don't love her enough.
This is Karen from Billerica, Massachusetts.
This is Adrian in Swanton, Vermont.
This is Miss Susan up in Warner, New Hampshire. And this is the Howie Carr Show.
So what did he say? What do we need everyone to do, Governor Parker?
But everybody has to play.
Except unless you play youth hockey, in which case you will not play. You will not hoss around. Okay, what should we do to prevent the spread of the panic, Governor Parker? Cut 23.
We now have 8 or 10 months of sort of universal agreement about those issues amongst most of the folks in the healthcare world. Eric, I don't know if you want to speak directly to this issue or not, but it just seems to me that it's pretty clear that it's the right way to go for a whole bunch of really good reasons.
He's talking about masks. You know what, Charlie Parker, I'm going to rely on the advice of Dr. Anthony Fauci about masks, how effective they are.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
Okay. You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask.
I agree. I totally agree. That was Dr. Fauci on 60 Minutes. We all know 60 Minutes tells the truth, right?
I saw on Twitter today my most favorite picture of the year 2020. It's a man in a Bronx subway station, and he's handing out masks, and another man passing by him with his hand up saying, "No, thank you." That's my favorite picture.
Oh, God. 781, Parker's shoulder must hurt from patting himself on the back for anything resembling good news. Otherwise, we get scolded like children for anything that exposes his failure. We are his straw man. That's an excellent way to put it, too. We are. We are his own person. His constituents, the people who elected him, are his straw man. Cut 22.
It's really going to come down to some extent how much benefit we'll get from the orders that we issued 2 weeks ago. It's going to be a function of how much people comply with them, and I think in some respects that's a very hard thing to measure. I don't know
if they succeed. If the rate goes down, I'll take credit for it. If the rate that goes up, I'll blame you. Like the guy said, he set us up as straw men. Steve, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Howie. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, it seems like the same thing that's going on between him, New York, and everything else. Blame Trump for the nursing homes and everything else. But yet Trump announces that we have a vaccine, but now we're going to go back to square one, and we're going to go into lockdown mode and go backwards where we got something forward to look at. But it seems like they're working together, all these states and all the Dems and
it is
Park of the Rhino.
It's true. I mean, Charlie Parker announced that the shutdowns of the bars, the shutdowns of alcohol sales, and then Cuomo falls into line. And then today, Phil Scott, even though 59 people dead in Vermont and everything in the state is basically shut down. I mean, it makes no sense. Gilbert, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Gilbert.
Shut up.
You there? No.
Yes. How you doing, Howie?
Good. Quickly.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. We'll call back again, Gilbert. Sorry you were having a problem. Let's play one more cut from Charlie Parker. Cut 19.
We're living in a pandemic. I know some people would prefer to think otherwise, but it's true and it's real, and it's all over the country. In fact, it's all over big parts of the Western world.
We are living in a bacterial world.
And I am a bacterial boy. Oh, God. Yeah, we're living in a panic-demic. That's what we're living in, and he's the cause of it. Have a good weekend, everybody. Stay strong. I'm Howie Carr. It works with my retirement accounts, and I'll bet yours, too. If your 401